Um, I would like to invite up Caprice, who will, just for about 5 minutes or so, help us to center a little more.
Thank you so much, Neonu. And what a pleasure to see all of you here. And I can't believe I recognized my first Zoom friend through the Mass. And hopefully many of you will get to do that throughout the day. And welcoming you into the space, love to do a quick invitation exercise to welcome all of ourselves into the space by grounding into our bodies. And so love to invite you to make sure you're seated comfortably, ideally both feet nice, firmly planted on the ground, and gentle gaze towards the floor or closing your eyes, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Love to invite you to take in 3 gentle, deep breaths, inhaling and exhaling. Another. Taking your time. Now, love for you to raise your shoulders up to your ears and release them down. One more time. And down. Just feel if anything shifted for you. Now we're going to move our right ear to our right shoulder, gently moving your head, tilting it as far as it feels good, and holding it there for 5 seconds. And bringing back to center your head. Now we're going to do the same for the left ear and left shoulder. Bringing it back to center. Notice if anything shifted in your body. Now we're going to take your right arm, lift it out in front of you. With your other hand, bringing your fingers gently towards the floor, pointing down towards the floor with your other palm and holding it for 5 seconds. Just feel that stretch. If you notice any shift, and release, and we're going to do the other side, loving both sides equally. Holding that stretch and release. Notice any feeling in your body. Now notice your back straight. Feel the chair holding you all the way onto your buttocks, your thighs firmly held by the seat with each breath. Don't forget, air is free. Notice your knees. Notice your calves. Notice the soles of your feet firmly held on this earth. Breathe in the air and give permission for it to land on any space in your body that needs that extra energy. With each breath, just notice. And thank you for choosing to be here today. You've chosen to wake up, bring yourselves here into the space in community. Today's a special day Not one more like this will exist ever again. And so thank you for being here and making it so. Ashe.
So I'd like to invite Paul Bryant Hudson up. He both has an announcement for us and then an offering. Yeah. I'm actually going to. Paul, why don't you make your announcement and then I'm gonna make one before you.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. So just in the spirit of community and safety, we're asking that everyone remain fully masked here in this common room, in this common area. The room in the rear, the space in the rear, and also the lower level, those are our designated mask optional spaces. And we just want to encourage you to make use of those spaces as it feels good and as you need to. We want you to, we're asking that you move with consent and special care for yourself and for others while moving through those spaces. Okay. We have spare surgical masks, which are available at the welcome table in the entryway. CEIO staff is available, and we're eager to answer any questions and assist with any accessibility needs or other accommodations. So we're here for you, and it's really good to be with you this morning.
Thank you, Paul. So I'm curious of you that are in the audience in the room, how many of you by raising your hand this is the first time that you're coming to a Deeper Change Forum? Ooh, yes. Welcome, 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 welcome. I want to know everything about you. I'm going to ask also if there are people that have done the CLP or Community Leadership Program, if you would stand. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I always like to recognize CLP because before there was CEIO, there was CLP. And I found that when I started trying to have these kind of gatherings, it made a huge difference that there was already, the soil was tilled in a very intentional way. So I always want to honor those who have come before and that continue to stoke the fire. So thank you. I also am curious if there are folks here that have come from outside of the greater New Haven area. Oh, they're all in one row? No, they're not. Yeah, no. Oh, yes. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Our day is intended to, let me just acknowledge also that there are some 30 or so folks that are on Zoom that this is being streamed out to, and we're hoping to have those folks as involved in the day as we can. So if there are questions or comments, we have folks that will run those into us and include those folks as well. So thank you, all the folks that are joining us on Zoom. So what I would love to do is to introduce our main presenter for today with some words and expressions. And then Paul will do an offering to set the tone, and I would invite Winona to come up right after Paul sings. Good. Winona LaDuke is a voice. I've not had the honor to be in the same physical space, but when I've heard Winona, I hear determination and voice. A Harvard-educated economist, environmental activist, author, hemp farmer, grandmother, and two-time former Green Party vice president candidate with Ralph Nader. LaDuke specializes in rural development, economic, food, and energy sovereignty, and environmental justice. Living and working on the White Earth Reservation in North Minnesota, she leads several organizations, including Honor the Earth, co-founded with the Indigo Girls 28 years ago. These organizations develop and model cultural-based sustainable development strategies, utilizing renewable energy and sustainable food systems. She is also an international thought leader and lecturer in climate justice, renewable energy, and environmental justice, plus an advocate for protecting indigenous plants and heritage foods from patenting and genetic engineering. With what I've read so far, can almost imagine into what it takes to answer the call that Winona has obviously stepped into. There is much, much more here, including 7 books, many, many years of activism, including 7 years battling Line 3, an Enbridge tar sands oil pipeline in northern Minnesota. When I most recently looked you up, Winona, you were being interviewed after having just been in prison for 3 days for this activist work, this on the ground, showing up. So we honor you and look forward to opening to whatever it is that you have to bring to us today. Paul, please.
Sometimes I feel like an angel, no wings to fly, no smile, no divine intentions, not to mention my halo. It fades so, gold turns to bronze and then eventually clear, like it's not even there. But if you ask me my favorite color, I'd say somewhere between black and brown, like mirrors reflecting on my spirit, man, who I am when nobody's around. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Sometimes I think I'm an artist. No song to write, no smile, no divine intentions, not to mention my pencil, it fades so charcoal to gray, then eventually clear, like it's not even there. Oh, but if you ask me my favorite artist, I'd say someone no longer around. But the music, it stays born new every day. And I'm blessed to be part of the sound, part of the sound, oh, the sound, yeah. Da 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 da. Da 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 ya da 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 ya 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 da 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 ya da 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 da. Thank you.
This is okay here like this, though. I can just do this. I wasn't sure when you asked me. Ani Dinaway Magadok, hello, my relatives. Benesi Quain Jinakas, Makwando Dam, Gababani Kag, Ishkaniganing, and Dunjaba, Oma, our king, in Da King Amin. So happy to be here with you. I'm honored to be here with you. I'm from northern Minnesota, Anishinaabe. I live the headwaters of the Mississippi and the Red River. That's where I live. And this land here, though, is the land of our relatives. Long time ago, we lived here. The Anishinaabe came from the east, and we were instructed to follow a shell which appeared in the sky to the place where the food grows on the water. That's wild rice. That's how I got to wild rice. But all these people out here are our relatives. They speak almost the same language, the Wampanoags and the Passamaquoddies and the Wabanakis. We're all related. We're Algonquin speakers. But, happy to be here with you. This is the Ojibwe New Year. I think it's your New Year too. I don't know where the Gregorian calendar came from. It really makes no sense, frankly. I mean, you know what I'm saying? This month is Kigamazige, Geesis, which is the maple syruping moon. That sound about like your neck of the woods? Right. I was like, why wouldn't you call it that? That's that's why we call it the New Year, because that's when she wakes up. Mother Earth wakes up after the sleep of the winter, right? And in Minnesota, we have a story about the between winter and spring, there's a battle that goes between Gabi Bunike, the winter maker, and Sigua in spring. And it can last long, and it lasted long. They got about 7 inches of snow when I left a couple days ago. It's like, I guess we got another run, but that means very good for the sugar bush. I don't know if people know that, but like that extra blast, that's going to give us another good one, you know, as soon as we can get back in the sugar bush. No, it's not bad. But the month that follows this is then Wabagon Agizis, which is the flower moon. And then O'Dayman Agizis, the strawberry moon, Mean Gizis, the blueberry moon, and Menominake Gizis, the wild rice making moon. Watebaga Gizis, that's when the leaves change color. Benaqueo Gizis, that's when they start falling, like October. Gashkadno Gizis, that's called the freezing over moon. November, freezing over. Manadu Gizis, Soons, Gichi Manadu Gizis, the little spirit and the great spirit moon. And then Onabana Gizis, when they are Nemebina Gizis, the sucker moon, and then Onabana Gizis, the hard crusted snow moon. And I'm sure that all makes sense to you, actually, because you're from the same ecosystem or just a little further north, you know, but you know, when the spring thaws and then it freezes again. So I always like to, you know, start with kind of reminding us that not all calendars have Roman emperors in them. Look, possible to have an entire worldview without empire. It's okay. Let it go, kind of useless. Just did want to mention that, kind of in the state of the world we're in, doesn't look like empire is a good thing. Yeah. So that's this month and this moon, and I want to say I brought a prop. That's a funny thing to say, but we you know, we have a phrase in our language, king. You know, I was in court on Monday for my water protector charges in Wadena County, which is the deep north, very deep north. And I went up there to the stand. There's all these tissues. I was like crying at the stand, apparently. But I was explaining this idea of king, which means the land to which the people belong. King. King Amin is the very land to which I belong, the very land to which I belong. And I think that that's, you know, that's an indigenous concept. It's not just a North American indigenous concept. It's a concept of people who belong to land, as opposed to, you know, private property or federal property. Or that was the discussion in court, was if I was on private property. I said, no, King Amin, I was in the same land that I belong to. You know, I'm charged with trespass on private property. And I said, that is not possible, you know. And, but that's a different way to view things, you know. And so, you know, I think as we look at the idea of deeper change, I think, you know, I guess I'm saying, let's remember who we are spiritually, you know, when we're all people that were connected to place and to seeds and to land. And now that we're here, root yourself, you know, root yourself. That's a way better plan than the transients of America. A lot of transients in America, a lot of historic amnesia and ecological amnesia. And I didn't forget. These teachings are old, but they're the same teachings. So this is a wampum. It's a replica. I realized I passed it out a couple days ago and they thought that was the one from the 1700s. I said, no, this isn't from the 1700s. Someone just made me this. But this is a wampum belt. And I know you've heard of these, but this is, I'm gonna actually let you look at this. This is a wampum. It's called a one dish, one spoon wampum, or a treaty. So it's a treaty, an agreement signed by my ancestors and the Iroquois, because we both lived in this territory. You know, and we shared territory. We shared. And there was conflict. There was conflict, and there was really not a need for conflict, because if you take care of your land, you don't have to have so much conflict, So anyway, this is treaty, it's noted in 1706 that this treaty was reaffirmed in Montreal. I'm just saying that if you look up the one dish, one spoon treaty, it says 1706 Montreal reaffirmed, right? Old treaty. And the teaching was that we all eat from one dish. This is the dish, it's in the middle, the dish. We all eat from one dish. And that dish is our Mother Earth. That's our dish. And then we all have one spoon. Now, I was at ceremonies last week and I passed out sugar. I made maple sugar. I gave it all away yesterday to a Julian Noyes cat and the great native writer who I happened upon in the Dulles airport. I was like, I think you need this sugar. He just come back from the Vatican, where some native people had gone to ask for an apology. They got an apology in Italian, I understand, from the Pope. I don't know, but he was going to, but that sugar, when you serve it with one spoon. And so when we had ceremonies last weekend, they serve and they gave you either put it in your hand or you put it in a little cup. And so that signifies that you all are relatives because you share a spoon. So I'm gonna pass this around. Should have said that a couple days ago. I was down in the deep South in Georgia. It's very funny. I had, like this, I had made an agreement before and then there was COVID and they were just, this woman, it was her last day. She said, I'm done. She's so funny. She said, I got there on the plane. She called me. She said, there's pushback. There's pushback on your lecture. I was like, I'm going to talk about seeds and hemp and solar. She said, there's pushback on diversity and sustainability at the Southern Georgia, University of Southern Georgia. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, what should I expect? I was like, is there going to be like a riot, of Trumpsters, or what is going to happen? And, well, as it turned out, there's a tornado. And so they canceled the lecture, but I gave the lecture to the 10 people that were there. And then they recorded it so that they could share it in a safe way. It was really funny. I've never been it was like there was a tornado just down the road. It was like in the middle of this tornado warning. It was funny. But anyway, these should not be so difficult discussions to have. Seem kind of backwards, really. But that's Georgia, I guess. Kind of backwards down there in a few ways. But I have some pictures to show you my community. How do I make those move? Oh, okay. Go back to that first one then. Good. Cool dude. Okay. In the back. Thank you. What's your name? Robert. Nice to meet you, Winona. That's kind of what we need to get back to. That's my point of this, is like you need to have agreements. And, America and a lot of people become kind of, take off my hat. I think my head is getting hot in there. Agreements. Everybody is talking about their rights, but not everybody want to talk about their responsibilities. Right? And this is an agreement about your responsibilities. That's what that is. And I think that that's a really important thing, because humans we're basically the T-Rexes. We're a disaster. Most days, I don't care much for us. I have a lot of animals. I prefer my horses to most humans. But the point is that there's a reason that, because we're jerks. But then we do really beautiful things like this, the music, right? Or something beautiful. And I was like, oh, redeemed again. But I'm sure all of you have a lot of the same feelings. You look out there at the mess we're making, but that's why we have to talk about responsibility. because we was all busy talking about rights. You know, what we need to be doing is talking about our privilege as North Americans, our privilege as humans, and the reciprocity, the agreement that exists between us and the Creator, and the agreement that exists between us and all relatives, that we should do good. We should make beautiful baskets. We should make maple sugar. You know, we should grow really cool vegetables. I picked some up at the hotel this morning. Some seeds from Weathersfield. Is that right? Yeah, they had them at the hotel. I was like, oh, that's great. I'm planting. Oh, I have so many plants started. It's going to be an explosion when I get home. But that's these times when we remember our responsibilities. And take a deep breath like we just did. Take a deep breath. Okay, so I'm going to show you some pictures of our community and our battle and what we do. So this is a water protector. This slide is a water protector. Can the people that are on the Zoom, they can see the pictures too, right? Good job. I know these guys like the magic of the technology, you know. But she's in northern Minnesota. She's an Anishinaabe water protector. That's what I am. I'm a water protector. I think it's a good thing to be, apparently a crime. But, you know, I'm 1,000 people arrested in Minnesota as water protectors. I was like, you know, I don't know what the rest of you are, but I think being a water protector is good. Right? Did you get arrested too? Thank you, sister. Thank you. Where's your charges from? The Golden Girls. Oh, yes. That's very sweet. Thank you. The Golden Girls. I was arrested with some Golden Girls too. Yes, we had a good time. The over 60 crowd. The Golden Girls. There was like 7 people and a piano that got arrested from out here too, right? That was great. I was like, what's she gonna do, Hubbard County, with that piano? They were like playing piano in front of the access road. Very clever, very cold. You know, there was a lot of great street art and great street theater in northern Minnesota, and we will have more. We're far from done. But so water protector, and there's a lot of missing and murdered Indigenous women, you know, in our neck of the woods and everywhere. But this one's not. She's quite present. She's about 30 feet wide and 40 feet tall. She's painted in downtown Duluth on 2nd Street and 2nd Avenue. And she's big and brown and proud, and I love her. So that's from my area. Okay, my friend, how about the next one? So I like to talk, and I'd like to have us remember when America was great. This is when America was great, when there was 10,000 varieties of corn. Tremendous agrobiodiversity, you know, and I think about that because corn doesn't exist in nature. I think y'all know that. Corn's teosinte in nature, but all of those varieties came from people like us. When we did something beautiful, we made corn varieties, you know, so remember that every once in a while when you think they were jerks, say, oh yeah, but we made those corn varieties. You know, that's when America was great. America was great when there was, you know, 900 varieties of potatoes. And the next picture, my dear, and when there was 50 million buffalo. That's when America was great. Single largest migratory herd in the world, and encompassed an area that upon which they lived on 250 different kinds of grass, biodiversity. And all those guys could hang out. And I don't know if any of you hung out with the buffalo in the winter, but I was in Yellowstone a long time ago, and right, they got these giant heads and they have this like corkscrew action. So they just go keep eating in the blizzard, move stuff around, right? But I'm saying that because a cow is not the creature for the future. You know, the same place used to have 50 million buffalo with no fossil fuels. You have 28 million cattle with a whole bunch of fossil fuels to support them. Feedlots, grain, you know, it's an insane colonial strategy, really. And then we have, you know, America was great when passenger pigeons darkened the sky, and maybe when you could drink the water from every river and lake, you know. So I want, you know, think about that. And of course we can be mournful, but it's also this acknowledgement of what greatness is. You know, because a lot of the anthropocentrics, you know, of our society, we're all about us, right? Our fabulous things we do and our latest cool thing. But, you know, she's pretty magnificent, our Mother Earth. Next picture. And this is our wild rice. That's a lake. It's called Upper Rice Lake. Well, that's Lower Rice Lake, excuse me. And that's Don Goodwin and I looking at our rice. We harvested in the same place for 10,000 years. That's what you call a sustainable economy. And all you got to really do is take care of them. All you got to do is take care of the water, take care of the lake. And so that's what we do. We're Winona wild rice making people. And we harvest our wild rice in the same lake for a long time. And that's been the battles that we've had over the mining and the oil. Does the rice have a right, or does your Canadian multinational have a right? You know, and you know which side we're on. So then the next picture. So this is, you know, a little bit about the historic conflict, you know, between Sitting Bull and Custer, perhaps. But this isn't like a new thing, is my point. You know, there's like a consciousness of Americans who feel lonely for the world that they know is supposed to be here. You know, that was even in our prophecies, right? All of these things was in our prophecies. And I think a lot about that now, you know, about, I spent a lot, I had the privilege of being with a lot of old dudes in my life, like I hung out with a lot of cool elders, you know? And I remember they said things and I didn't really think about them. I mean, I thought about them, but so my father used to always talk about when there's not going to be food in the store. They wouldn't just see that. We just saw that with the pandemic, right? He's like, yeah, there's not gonna be food in the store. I was like, but you know, we're a farming family, so I have to be honest, as the pandemic was, you know, we'll talk a little about that, but it was, you know, for us, we just kind of didn't go to town, and we didn't like going to town anyway. You know, so we grew a lot of our food, and but that's what he talked about. And then I remember Thomas Banyak, a Hopi elder, he used to talk about, he was a friend of my dad's too. I remember him talking about, it's a Hopi prophecy about the next world would be coming, the end of one world and the next world coming when there was a web in the sky. Now he said that in the 70s when I heard him, a young woman. And now I had we had no idea what a web in the sky was, right? Well, we're talking about the World Wide Web, right? You know, we didn't have that idea. We thought maybe they were talking about Star Wars, or, you know what I'm saying? As things evolved, I was like, I wonder if that's it. You know, no, it was the web in the sky, is the World Wide Web, you know? And they talked about a lot of these times as a time, you know, in Indigenous thinking, there's really a clear sense that it's not, you know, there's a birth and a death and a rebirth. That's life. That's what's cyclical. That's a cyclical, that's the cycle of life, you know? And, you know that you have enough of your people buried in the ground and not in a steel casket, that you are those genetics of that ground. You are that soil at a certain point, right? So you know that you are those people, but there's always this understanding of a birth and a rebirth. And, you know, I think about that and this moment, and that's really this moment. You know, our prophecies talk about a time of the seventh fire, when it said we'll have a choice between two paths. One path, they said, it'd be well-worn but scorched. The other path would not be well-worn, it'd be green. It'd be our choice upon which path to embark. It's a real old teaching, you know, of our people that's came with the prophecies. And when we were instructed to go to the place where the food grows upon the water, like a long time ago prophecy, right? And that's pretty much what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a really well scorched path. Did a good job scorching that one. And then I also see a green path. And so, you know, during the pandemic, I think a lot of us, you know, we had a very rude awakening as to our mortality and the folly of thinking that we are smart. You know, that's to say that, you know, a bat whose habitat is destroyed in China as a result of greed and humans changes our world. You know, I think a bat, Bakwanachi and Anishinaabe. There's a lot of stories about bats and this big story about bat and our history. And, you know, we all thought we were super smart, and we was all continuing on our path where we had managed, you know, to become these Americans. And I don't know, sometimes I laugh, I think about how people talk about how they want to be free. And now the amount of freedom they have is largely conscribed by something about this big that they spend 60% of their time looking at. I was like, you look pretty free to me, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about. We got so anthropocentric that we just like sit in our little square boxes now and think we're smart. Well, the pandemic changed a lot of that. And I think that I really like what Arundhati Roy, the Indian writer, says when she talks about the pandemic. She talks about pandemic as portal. She says that in the history of the world, pandemics always force societies to change. This one is no different. It's a portal between one world and the next. She says, what are you going to do? What are you going to bring through the portal from one world to the next? She's going to bring your avarice, your hatred, your data banks, your dirty rivers. Or are you going to walk through clean? Now we know that during the time of the pandemic, it was very clear that the systems didn't work. You know, we ain't even going to talk about the insurrection, right? But I'm just saying food systems collapsed. We noted that we purchased a lot of things from China that were not going to be arriving at any time soon, right? It was all smart with our big global economy of perfect, right? Pretty much. And then we all had to stay home. You know, and a lot of people had a very hard time, and we all lost people. We all lost people, you know. And then also we had to stay home, and we actually had to think a little bit more about being different people. So they say that like gardening quadrupled, right? We all figured out that we should grow food because it wasn't clear that there was going to be food at the store. And then then I think that a lot of us became like more in touch with ourselves because we had relinquished all of these things to other systems, food, energy, jobs. We were living pretty well in our wage slavery. It's like what John Trudell, the great John Trudell, used to say. He'd say, the difference between a slave in chains and a wage slave is that the first one knows exactly where he stands. You know, how do we get to be these people? And then there's the great quit. I like that. I was like looking at that. People are like, no, I'm not going back. Really interesting, you know, transforming. So I say, keep it up. Keep it up. You know, and at the same time, you know, we have catastrophes of biblical proportions all around us, you know, and more coming. More coming. The grid's going to go down. Did I need to mention this to you? No, y'all know this. We have no infrastructure. Paradise Fire taught us that, right? We have no infrastructure that is resilient. You know, everything is about big. You know, the economies of scale. That's what they taught you at Harvard and in every economics class. Yeah, not really. So it turns out size matters, and you don't want everything so big that you're just so fragile. Right? And then we reduced our energy use significantly. We had to stay home. Skies cleared up some. You know, yeah. And in the midst of it, we had a social movement that was like not even related to that exactly, but, you know, George Floyd, the question of whose lives matter, set off a very strong movement that surged across this country. And I'll tell you what, in my life, I did not expect to see 44 statues of Christopher Columbus fall. Never in my life do I think I'm going to see that. That was cool. Right? New Haven too? Go team, go. Yeah, I was like, there you go. I mean, so what I'm saying is, it's like people had enough. And people were like, we're done. I just see somebody else's statues coming down. I said, let's do that. I'm going after Knute Nelson. He's in front of the state of Minnesota. Give me a few years on that one. They're still recovering from, they ain't gonna recover. Just gonna keep pushing. Yeah, and those sports teams, they were holding on. Dan Schneider was just holding on down there in Washington, right? Mr. White Privilege himself. I just get to do what I get to do because I'm a billionaire. Oh, well, it's gone. What I'm saying is that there's a lot of change. No time like the present. Okay, next couple of pictures. You guys don't need this one. I show this one in Georgia because they weren't clear that there was climate change related disasters apparently. Although the event was pretty much canceled for a tornado. So, we're in. I just laugh at them about it. I was like, okay, good. Well, at least we didn't have a riot and I didn't have to walk through a bunch of Klansmen. Get to my lecture, right? I was like, Georgia. But a nice time. All right. So this is what happens at the end of the fossil fuel era. Look, I'm like all of you. I lived my whole life in the fossil fuel era. It's the way they did it. Got us into this like heavily addicted society. We're just all a bunch of addicts. Let's just be honest. I got my favorite addiction right here, the caffeine, though. I feel like that's a good one. I keep that one. They can arrive by sailboat. I mean, you know what I'm saying is that they're beans. It's not like I'm trying to get my goji berries or my avocados in a timely manner. They're beans. They can arrive by sailboat. I can still get them in a sustainable manner. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You guys probably all think of all this stuff every day like me. I'm like, oh, no, can't eat that. No, I'm not going to touch that. It's just like this like complex situation. And we would just like to, I'd be satisfied with having things kind of move along in a post-fossil fuel era. But, I feel like I just want a graceful transition. That's me. I just feel like we're a coherent society, or some of us are coherent. And we should have a graceful transition out of this mess before everything's even worse, right? But they don't want to give up. We all notice that. I just spent 8 years fighting fossil fuel pipelines, dumb things, dumb things. And what happens when you fight them is that they bring out the repression. So this is Standing Rock in 2016. That's what $38 million worth of military repression will give you. All, paid for, and 38 million. Next slide. And then this is what racism looks like, in case you didn't know. So the initial proposed route of the pipeline was north of the city of Bismarck, which is 90% white, right? Nobody ever talks about like how it got to be just north of Standing Rock. It got to be north of Standing Rock because North Dakota is super racist. And instead they just put it, just right there. We should just do that to those Indian people, right? But that's what Energy Transfer Partners and the fracked oil of North Dakota. Then the next picture, and this is what it looks like, but part of the reason we fought a pipeline in 2013 to 2016, which was called Enbridge's Sandpiper. And that was a North Dakota pipeline. Enbridge is the third largest corporation in Canada, largest purveyor of tar sands into this country. 75% of the tar sands come in through Enbridge. They're evil corporation, but they were trying to put this pipeline through northern Minnesota initially, and we fought them. And so they went out and financed 28% of the Dakota Access Pipeline to move their oil. So these are all related. It's like, you got to keep your eye out on the horizon for your brothers and sisters someplace else. We got to be as agile as a corporation. We got to think like that, A lot of people get kind of local, but you got to understand these guys are, you know, they're big and you got to chase them and you got to make their lives miserable. Talking to my sister, Millie Lonnie Trask here a few days ago, no, a couple weeks ago, when she was talking about, she says, I think I'm gonna pull my hair out. She's in Hawaii. I said, oh, don't pull your hair out, sister. She said, oh, that's right. My sister, Haunani K, used to say, our job is to riot and raise our voices and make them pull their hair out. That's like that's what I'm gonna work on my next 20. Make them guys pull their hair out. No need. I keep mine. Next picture. Oh, this is my experience. So this is when they want to keep a pipeline in northern Minnesota, 915,000 barrels a day, tar sands oil, feeds through the Great Lakes. And we didn't miss a single regulatory hearing. We submitted our testimony. We did everything we were supposed to do. And the system is broken. I think it's called regulatory capture when corporations own your regulatory and legislative system. Amber Jones, Minnesota. And so this is, I think this is on just south of Hill City by the Willow River. Next picture. This is our driveway in Hubbard County. That's to say that my organization, Honor the Earth, purchased land on and adjacent to the line. Enbridge had the land on the line. I couldn't get anything on the line, but I could get next to the line, which caused them a lot of crying. And so we gave this land to a community group called GNU, which is involved in a lot of frontline resistance, and 80 acres. And the road into it, was the driveway. And you would think that would go with the property. Well, it turned out that I owned the easement. I had to have a separate legal transaction for the easement. And one day we look out there and these guys are there and they said they own the easement. And I said, no, you don't. I own the easement. Get on my driveway. But this is, so this is what happens when they spend $7 million in Minnesota on the police. And in this case, rather than having the state finance it, the state of Minnesota opted to have Enbridge pay for the police in Minnesota. And so this is a Canadian multinational paying for the police in an American state. I think it's like kind of a lot of problems in that. Sounds kind of third world and all, like maybe, like El Salvador or Honduras, where Canadian multinationals also kill indigenous people, right? But this is your police at work, $7 million worth of police at work. And then the next picture. This is who they are charging. Like this Sister Melinda here. 1,000 people arrested. This is kind of like a Woodstock-like day, as you see. The headwaters of the Mississippi couldn't get us when we were in the water, but as soon as people got out of the water, they started arresting. And that's what you need $7 million for. And then the next picture. And this is my arrest on the Shell. I was charged I have charges in 3 counties, 3 different rivers. One pumping station and 2 rivers. But this is the Shell River. My Anishinaabe people in the 1855 Treaty Authority appointed me the guardian ad litem for the Shell. And I lived on the Shell last summer for 5 months in a campground that was a traditional village, actually prime camping space. Very nice. I lived there for 5 months with those kids. We had a horse camp there and we're horse people. So those are some of my grandkids and some of my nieces and nephews. And I'm one of the ladies in the lawn chairs. I decided that there was plenty of people under 30 who had been arrested, and the 60-year-olds plus should, like, what they gonna do? I did spend 3 days in jail, but I was like, right, y'all not gonna give me a job now? I mean, you know what I'm saying. So 7 of us were arrested, Shell River 7. My trial was on Monday. My trial on Monday was on if the court had jurisdiction over me. because in Hubbard County, the Hubbard County sent all the Indians back to tribal court, as did Crow Wing County, but in Aiken County, a couple of the counties are trying to hold on to the Indian people, make a good example of us. So the case was on Monday is my tribe said that I didn't belong in the state court, that I belonged in tribal court. And they asked that I be remanded. And so, but our trial is probably May 5th, big trial for all of us women charged with trespassing, which I said we weren't trespassing because Inda Kingdom Inn, it's the very land to which we belong, right? You know, okay, the next picture. And this is just to show you that my problems are everybody else's problems. And this corporation is continuing to try to get across Wisconsin right now, faced with huge opposition. And then under the Straits of Mackinac, I don't know if you've been watching that, they have a 62-year-old pipe under the Straits of Mackinac, and not good. And the Governor Whitmer of Michigan told them that they had to pull it, that their easement was done. And as did Bad River, and the Enbridge Corporation did not want to. So basically, I just want to point out that this corporation is holding the Great Lakes hostage. That's all tar sands oil. And the story I'm telling you is really an American story because we got aging pipelines in this country. We have an infrastructure crisis that is deep. We have like a D in infrastructure. We're like a first world country. Gas mains blow up. You don't want to light a cigarette in downtown Boston, I heard. You understand what I'm saying? And then rather than let them make new things, they should fix their old ones, or they should take them out. And any of us who've been around a little while, y'all know that corporations come and go, particularly when they have a problem like Bhopal and Union Carbide. Then they go bankrupt. They leave it for us. So responsibility is you clean up your mess, you know, and this is a larger responsibility of our society is to make that, is to recover that. Okay, next picture. Oh yeah, and this is your blowing up infrastructure. This is the city of Superior a few years ago. I was just in Duluth. I was like, y'all high? You gonna get rid of that thing yet? Look at that thing. That's an exploding refinery right next to Superior. This is my life's work. You see the end of the fossil fuels era. You know, it's the end of the party when their stuff's blowing up, right? That's part of my point. It's like their stuff's blowing up. It's falling apart. Really time to like move along, right? I'm not making this up. I just showed you a picture of their stuff is breaking and falling apart, right? So what do we want to do? We want to like clean this stuff up, move on out. Okay, next picture. Oh, thank God we're on the happy ones. Okay, now I'll take a breath again. That was the depressing, kind of stressful section, but that's reality, right? And so here's this is what I refer to as the Sitting Bull plan. And they got the Build Back Better, the Green New Deal. The questions are, how are we gonna here's a little basket. You could put that in, buddy, when you guys are done with that. I call it the Sitting Bull plan, or in our prophecies, we would call it the 8th fire. The 7th fire is the time of the choice. And if you take the green path, you light the 8th fire. The 8th fire is the one that has the balance back. And, the Sitting Bull, what he said, many things the guy said, but he said, let us put our minds together to see what kind of future we can make for our children. Let us put our minds together to see what kind of future we can make for our children. And that is really an important construct because there's a lot of like one savior. Someone gonna save us, our knight in shining armor. It turns out that change is made by the hands of individuals like us. And that everybody has a gift. Figure out what your gift is, and nurture that. And now is the time, it's spring. Now is the time to plant the seeds for that, right? Think about what it is we learned over the winter. You're supposed to reflect. I spent, do that. And then have your seeds, and maybe your seeds are your paintings, or maybe your seeds are your garden, but what are we doing? Now's our time. Now's our time to plant this new, beautiful future. So, okay, now next picture. All right, so there's me last year racing with my grandson, right? And we're on Shell Lake, which is at the head of the river that I was arrested on. But that's wild rice. And that was his first time polling Granny. Kid must have grew a foot since that picture too. Oh yeah, those are, so they're about this long, and he's pushing me through the rice with that pole, right? Because it's thick. You can't paddle a canoe in there. You can paddle out in there, okay? And then I have these two sticks, and I'm doing like in this case, what am I doing? I think I want, you're going like this, and then you're knocking them. You're pulling it over the boat, and then you're knocking it into the boat, right? Now, you can get 200, 300, 400. I've seen people pulling 700 pounds a day. Right, this is not, we're not messing around. Got some strong guns from that one, right? But that's how you harvest it. And that, and it is like maple syruping. It's like you get something beautiful if you do the work, which is, I think, kind of a lesson that we all know, right? It's not like a free ride. You got to work to make something beautiful, right? And so that's us. That's Ande Goots, Neelan. He's 13, gonna be 14. Heck of a horseman. Okay, next picture. All right, see, here we go. This is what I'm talking about. So during the pandemic, this is my farm. All these guys moved in with me. Couldn't go to school. So I have lived for the past 2 years with a bunch of 15-year-old boys. Pretty much. Right. And that's my granddaughter there. And those guys there's like different iterations of them. They come like in herds, small herds from different communities. And they're like, Auntie Winona, can we stay with you? Yes, of course you can. Okay. So in relocalizing, which a lot of us did, I live on this farm, and my farm there's two farms across the road from each other. One's the Anishinaabe Agriculture Research Farm, and then this was the farm I bought, or I paid for most of it with a Kickstarter. I didn't actually pay for all of it, but this is for hemp because I have a hemp permit. And I'm going to talk about that, but you got been 7 years or 6 years state of Minnesota permits and 1 federal permit. So this is the hemp farm, hence the big cannabis leaf on there. But we lived there, and we already had a lot of our food because we farmed corn, beans, squash, potatoes, Jerusalem artichokes, tobacco, basil, like the garden vegetables and stuff. And then we lived, we're just north of the Amish. It's like actually a geographic location, and it's kind of a spiritual location too, just north of the Amish. Because we share a lot of similar horse teachings. And so we would just go to the Amish to the store because they have a pretty sweet setup there, and you could just get your eggs, and all our meat was butchered there. So we hung out with the Amish. Just instructive. I think that we're all good friends. I know that they are very entertained with us. I mean, look at that collection, right? All right, so the next picture. Okay, so I was always a horse and hand agriculture person. So this is one of our farms. This is the girl team out in the middle of the Ponsford Prairie. And yeah, and there's some of our seeds, but there's a lot of lessons you learn gardening, like a hoe is a garden implement, and you learn a lot about soil, and you learn a lot about, a lot of things in the garden. And then you also learn the relationship between energy and food, because most of our food today has a lot of fossil fuels in it. All kind of stuff with side all over it, transported in plastic, 1,400 miles from farmer to table, right? A lot of stuff. So we farm like this. And then what we noticed is that also that farming with horses was a good idea because they got a lot more power. That's why they call it horsepower. So the next picture, this is us putting in some, you can see the ponytail, right? Literally, yeah. I don't have a bunch more pictures of my horses, but we farm with horses. And so we have a lot of horses right now. My grandson started buying horses themselves. So I got a grandson, he has 2 thoroughbreds and 2 ponies. No, he had 1 pony pass. He has a pony and then riding horses. But we have work horses, percherons. That's for the big stuff in the field, right? When you're not messing around. And then we have like halflingers, like they're like half Belgian, half pony. Those are for farming too. And then you have the little ponies, they can do stuff, right, too. So depending on your plot size and what you're trying to do, and it's like the kind of things you learn. And of course, that's what a cyclical economy looks like. Because obviously the manure is of great value, right? And so that's kind of I think that's like an essential part of the equation is how you return to a cyclical economy, right? Because that's what a natural economy is, not a linear economy like we have now. I don't know why I was looking at the Port of Beirut explosion a couple of years ago. I don't know if anybody I paid no attention to that, but you know what that was? That was fertilizer. It was like after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that was the 3rd largest explosion. And I was like, wow, that sounds like really great stuff to put on your food. Yeah, I was like, this is crazy. I think we'll do this. Okay, so next picture. This is what we grow. This is some of these aren't our potatoes, but these are from the Peruvian Potato Museum. This is the tremendous agrobiodiversity. And as you know, potatoes are indigenous to the Western Hemisphere. And what you want, and that the Irish potato famine obviously would have taught us, is that you want biodiversity, not a monocrop, right? So that's some biodiversity in potatoes. And don't you feel like you should grow all those potatoes too, if you could? I mean, you understand what I'm saying? It's like, why wouldn't you grow cool potatoes if you could grow cool potatoes, right? So a couple of years ago, we grew 17 varieties, right? And I'm interested in potatoes from my region, and the Anishinaabe are renowned for purple potatoes. Of course, I was like, of course we grew purple potatoes. Yeah, I thought it was so interesting. There's all these like journals of the priests and the explorers are like, and the Ojibways really like these purple potatoes. Like all these like really early, I was like, yeah, of course. So I grow purple potatoes, fingerlings. But last year, we had the deepest drought in the history of my life in the state. That's when the state of Minnesota allowed Enbridge to frack our rivers and pierce our aquifers and steal 5 billion gallons of water. Single largest water allocation in the state of Minnesota, and not a single review. And so I was watching which potatoes did well in drought. That's why I'm telling you this. And that's why I'm saying is that that's what we gotta do. It's this very intimate relationship with place where you learn how to adapt, because Mother Nature isn't going to adapt to you. You're going to need to adapt to Mother Nature, right? And so potatoes, there's this big study on the potatoes now. I mean, there's like because of their climate resilience and which ones grow in saltier, soil, because of the king tides in the Pacific. They're looking at that with kalo or taro. You understand, right? So this is like, potatoes are a good one. I get some from that guy in Maine potato guy. I forget, but they got a lot of potatoes in Maine too. Anyway, next picture. And then this is, we can grow all the cool food, but don't waste it. Let's just use, you guys didn't need this picture. They needed this in Georgia though. Right? But we all know what I'm talking about, right? We're a bunch of pigs, basically. billion people starving and a billion people obese. Which side are we on? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, so part of this whole thing is like I can give you the instructions that my father gave me on how to live, which is grow a garden, right? I can say, but there's no point in growing a garden if you're going to keep being wasteful. So that's some of the deeper change is like, don't be a jerk. You know, eat local and eat what you need and you'll feel a lot better. You know, then next slide. And then here's our farm. Okay, now I'm gonna talk about hemp. Okay, next picture. Okay, so this is our hemp crop from 2016. That is a fiber hemp crop. That's what I grow. And I'm interested in fiber hemp because the word canvas comes from cannabis. That's a lot of canvas. It's a lot of sales. That's a lot of tarps. That's a lot of materials economy. So say we figured out how to deconstruct the materials economy. Oh, that sounds like a really good idea to me, particularly since it's all made of fossil fuels now. Right? And so hemp is how you do that. Hemp is really the way. And I was never a really big hemp person my whole life. That's a funny thing to say, but I'm a grower now. I'm a firm convert, you know, everything from legalization to textiles. But I think that, you know, I refer to this as the new green revolution because Minnesota was the foundation of the well, Norman Borlaug called himself the father of the green revolution out of the University of Minnesota. Brought us, you know, industrialized agriculture and blowing up ports in like Beirut, a lot of GMOs, right? All that stuff brought to us by, so it's really time for a new green revolution because that one wasn't so great. And everybody in this room knows that, right? So it needs, it has to have depth and scale. Like I could grow my own little personal hemp crop and make myself some rope and show up in a hemp outfit. That's not going to change the world. You need to scale this stuff. You need to scale it. And so we're working on building an intertribal hemp cooperative in our region because we have landed tribes. Sisseton and who I'm working with now is Sisseton and not Lower Brule, Crow Creek. A couple of the just tragic stories in our communities. But they want to grow hemp. Trying to get down to Santee too, they want to grow. And so that stuff, because it grows so fast, you know, in Minnesota, it's long days in the summertime, very long. And so the hemp likes that. It grows really tall. And when it grows really tall like that, it sucks down a huge amount of carbon, making it one of the best things to sequester carbon, right? And that's kind of what we need right now, right? It sequesters carbon, it brings it down. And in that process, it also has deep roots, and those roots, it bioremediates. It pulls heavy metals because it's so fast, right? You know, and so my next 10 years is pretty much carbon sequestration and bioremediation of messed up land that we just bought back from corporate polluters. Right? I mean, I was like, let's just try this, right? Yeah. After the Enbridge battle, you know, I was kind of licking my wounds for a bit. They got their pipeline in October. I called up the project manager, you know, who has, you know, of course I have his cell number. And he used to call me occasionally, want to meet? Be like, nope. It's sad. But anyway, they had purchased the land around our organization. They had purchased land on two sides of our organization so that they can conduct surveillance on us. They had 120 acres of land surrounding our little 40-acre parcel of our little sustainability campus. I was like, to the best of my ability, I've not stopped you from putting in that pipeline. Can I get that land back now? And so we bought it from them. It made me feel better. Land back makes me feel better. I was like, feel a little better. And then I looked down the road and there was these other guys called RDO Opat, the largest potato producer in the country for independent for McDonald's. They're just shit, really. All kinds of, bad stuff. But I have some faith, I fought them. I didn't fight them. I was fighting Enbridge. And then I was looked down there at that land and I had met the daughter. Her name is Christy Offit. Her father's a jerk. He's an old dude, man. But I've learned that the children of the 1% are not necessarily such jerks. And so she's the CEO, or she's the chair of the board. And she came to see me. She's my age, maybe a little younger. I said, this is my village and that's your field. We want the field back. It's right across from my kid's school. So we bought it. That's the one that I'm bioremediating. I said, watch what we do. Watch. Put a solar project there. Of course, I have to raise all the money for this, but that's what I did is I went and raised some money and I'm still raising more, but I felt better. Like if you got your 2 corporate predators out of your village, it's like, we're done. We're done. Let me just live in peace here. Let me clean up the mess you made. Let's make something beautiful and grow some hemp, right? So that's what we're doing. So this is our field in 2016. And then next picture. And this is a little bit about why you want hemp. I've been really interested in hemp wood. I just bought some of it. It's they take those plants, they strip them, and then they lay them down and they put some soybean paste, magic stuff, I don't know really. They squish it and make flooring. In fact, they make OSB, they make structural beams now. I was like, what if you could just grow, you could leave your forests intact? What if you could just quit? And in the process, sequester a huge amount of carbon. So that's what, we're going for. I need a hemp project coordinator. If anybody knows anybody that wants to come help us. It's a great job. It's a great moment. And so we're looking at hemp wood, and then I'm mostly interested in textiles. I started in textiles, and that's the hardest thing to get to because Minnesota used to have 11 hemp mills until the 1930s, as did Wisconsin. And we milled hemp and made canvas and all that stuff for the military and all kind of stuff. But with the criminalization of the Marijuana Prohibition Act, they basically not only did they kill the industry, but they destroyed the body. So trying to rebuild an American hemp industry is like very challenging because there's no evidence of the body. The question that you would ask if you were me and kind of a pre and post petroleum woman is how did they do it before they did it with a bunch of caustic chemicals in China, right? At what scale is your footprint the best? What is the most inappropriate technology that you can learn from? Because the technology they used in the 1930s may not be the best technology. There's probably some smart, super smart guys or women that came up with something really disruptive technology that's super innovative that we want to use, right? So I don't ever close my, I accept that there's some really brilliant ideas out there and I pray that they will arrive in a timely manner. You know what I'm saying? So we're looking at this question. And anyway, so I've been working on getting to textiles. And of course, I picked the hardest thing because the creator, that is my path. I must pick the hard path. Because everybody else is like, we're going to make kitty litter. I was like, that's not revolutionary. Or you understand what I'm saying? I was like, what if we made houses and clothing? But the textiles is very hard. And so I've been at this. I've been to all kind of hemp conferences and met with all kind of guys and seen all kind of corporations or businesses come and go, bought by someone else. So my hemp crop went out to South Carolina, went through a couple of ownership. We got it decorticated in some kind of a interesting manner. And then we sent it to, it ended up in Virginia. I don't know why it ended up in Virginia, but now it's getting degummed, which is the trick. But the thing is what we figured out is that in the North, Mother Nature degums for you most of the way because you let it freeze in the field. And when it freezes, it expands and it busts up the lignin, which is what holds it together that you're trying to get. It's the gum. Isn't that interesting? See, but you wouldn't know that unless you spend a lot of time looking at it and trying. That's what this Anishinaabe Agriculture Institute does, is we're trying to figure out how to do the least carbon footprint strategy. And so like in India, they grow it, but they don't have the frost. You understand what I'm saying? Is it's like I'm learning, trying to learn how to do it in an ecosystem that it makes sense. And so this last couple of months ago, actually on Martin Luther King Day, I ended up with 71 varieties of Russian hemp. Very excited. They had arrived in kind of an unusual manner, like inside some Russian malto meal boxes and such, apparently. But I'm like, come to me, my seeds, right? Because seeds should not be owned by customs. No. So we're planting them. But the reason I wanted the Russian varieties is because they're northern like us, right? Like I've been growing Italian varieties and Spanish varieties, and those are awesome. But what if we grew Russian varieties? Well, that's my next few years. We have a really cool guy who's going to come grow up my varieties. But look, you know, the thing is with cotton, this stuff is what, 24% of the world's agricultural chemicals and 4% of the world's agriculture. Totally not sustainable. What we need is linen and hemp. Those are northern, and wool. Linen, hemp, and wool. Kind of sounds old school, but that's actually where we need to go, you know, because we don't need any more fast fashion. We're done. We're done with H&M and all those guys. We're done, you know. And so, and it also sequesters an immense amount of carbon. So the next picture, this is construction materials. So I bought this hemp insulation, 97% hemp, replaces fiberglass, R28 value, green building. And that's what what else we want to make is insulation. I want to put it in an insulation factory because that seems like a really smart idea to me in the north. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to work on fabric. Did I mention that's my goal? But but I do have in 2023, you can purchase the first run of my hemp fiber. And Patagonia is putting out my bags. There's 500 bags. So you have to get in line, you know, because we only had a little bit. That's cool though. Huh? Yeah, it's the first North American hemp bag. Yeah, I feel like kind of cool. Feel cool. You know, and I'm talking about this. I mean, I just spent 8 years fighting Enbridge. You know, I don't really like, I mean, I'll fight those guys because they're wrong. But you know what? Growing a new economy, that's cool. Right? I'm saying is, and that's our chance, you know. Where was I? I was talking, at the hemp conference. I was like, no, there's no pioneers in this one. Just ditch that stuff. So we could be doulas. We could be doulas of the new economy. Everybody could be a doula. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need. Is like we need to give birth to something new that is beautiful together, right? And people are going to have different things. Like I got my little gift, like I can grow things, right? But when we got into this advanced technology, I had to pass that to my smarter than me team. You know, of these like Indian mechanic guys who like fix everything, you know, and they're like, make wild rice parching, you know, so we're on it. Next picture. And this is what that insulation looks like up close. This is on my kitchen table. And that's a rug that some Navajo weavers made. So I was trying to get all these fancy people to make me textiles. And then my Navajo friend said, can we have some of that? And I said, yeah. And it came back with this 60-40 churro hemp rugs, higher tensile strength than cotton because hemp is 3 times the tensile strength. So if you're going to make a $12,000 rug, what if you made it with something that is going to hang, right? So that's my partnership, like that's our emergent, our team. And one of those women is going to come stay with me in the summer. We also got, because the Navajos asked us, we got Angora sheep. I was like, Angora goats. I'm just laughing because I'm now raising goats too, but they wanted the Angoras. I was like, okay, I get you Angoras. I raise them for you. You can make wool. You know, that's how you work in community, right? You know, they can't do some of the things we can. They can't grow hemp. It's illegal there. But we can. you know? So next picture. And then there's this, last time I was here, I was in Massachusetts. So they're making, because of the nature of hemp, how fast it grows, to go to the next picture, you can kind of see it. Now you see this core, that stuff in there. Think about how fast it grows and how much carbon it sequesters. So when you make biochar out of that, it has a very high graphene, and that is what you use in batteries and in supercapacitors. And it quadruples the value of a present battery. Hemp is the future in batteries. And everybody here knows that we got to figure out the battery future, right? I mean, the battery future is first recycle your batteries, right? They're saying that the cathodes are better the second time around. And I don't know if that's in all batteries, but it's kind of like warmed up leftovers is my explanation to myself. And like, sometimes they're better second time around, I guess, and then there's sodium, but we got to move beyond lithium. We got to move beyond we got to move on. But we also just got to consume less. That's part of this whole, that's what we got to do. Yeah, so this is the disruptive technology. And everybody here knows that disruptive technologies transform the world. There's a reason that Exxon isn't at the top of the S&P anymore. Who's the richest guys in the world? The tech heads, the tech guys, right? Right? Amazon and Tesla, right? Disruptive technologies. That's kind of like a new version of magic as far as what I could see. But one of the things I was talking, I remember who I was talking about, maybe John, about the question of technology, because we don't ask questions. And one thing I learned from hanging with the Amish is they ask a lot of questions about technology. And I was like, we should ask more questions. They call me from a phone down the road. They walk down to the corner and they have a community phone, like Amish calling. It's really funny. I was like, you always got to get it because they're standing out in the cold calling you, right? But that's how they did it. They make a choice that they need to make a phone call, so they have a phone that there's a community phone, and they all go walk over and use it. Right? Kind of cool. The choices. Anyway, next picture. Okay, as I said, New Green Revolution. This is I like this picture. It's looks like I'm in the 70s. That's when somebody called and complained that there was noxious weeds in my field. And then I was like, noxious weeds in my field. And I went out there and I was like, oh, you mean the 9-foot tall hemp plants in my field? So that was I am in the 60s still. I have my halter dress on and it's great. That's the thing about being a hemp farmer and legalization. I get to relive the 70s. Oh my God. So great, I mean, just to be clear, I was raised in a small town in Southern Oregon, Ashland. Any of you guys know where Ashland is? Right, of course, the cool people all know Ashland is. I was raised in Ashland. My mother still lives there, but that's in the heart of the Emerald Triangle. There was cannabis the whole time. I mean, 13, 14 years old, I was smoking herb down in the park. Come on, this is the 70s. And then I quit for so long. But but it's funny because it was the DEA officer at the time, not to be tangential, but the DEA officer at the time in Jackson County, his name was Howard Hemphill. We were like, really? Howard Hemphill, the DEA officer. I was like, bad name, buddy. You have no legitimacy. All right. But now I go to an agricultural research station that my stepfather worked at, and they have a cannabis department. I go hang with them. I was like, how's it growing? But the problem is in Oregon, they're all interested in recreational marijuana. And that is the problem is that, getting high is awesome. Healing yourself with that medicine is good, but that's not the revolution. I mean, that might be a little revolution in your mind, but the problem is it stays in your mind a lot of times, right? And that's not what we're after. We're after this revolution that transforms the material economy, right? From all this stuff to hemp, The way I heard it said, this Kentucky farmer, it's in the film Patagonia's film, Misunderstood, if you ever get a chance to, excellent, 13-minute film. We had a choice between a carbohydrate economy and a hydrocarbon economy. That's what they said. About 1920, we had a choice between a carbohydrate economy and a hydrocarbon economy. And the choice was really between hemp and oil. And look at how close those words are, carbohydrate and hydrocarbon. Made the wrong choice. Patagonia film's called Misunderstood. Anyway, next picture. Okay, then the solar. This is our little work in our community. Now I tell you these stories because this is us. And we're like not the people you would gamble on. You know what I'm saying? Like everything we have, you're not supposed, you know, we're like hanging in. Native people hanging in, but we realized nobody was going to fix this for us. So we're like, well, we're just going to have to do it ourselves. So 8th Fire Solar, named after our prophecy. Next picture. So this is our team. Pretty much, I got a couple sons in there. Big guy in the middle, that's Johnny. And then the guy on the end, a tall guy on the end, that's Gway, my youngest child. And we make solar thermal panels. And why do I make solar thermal panels? If people are like, why don't you make solar panels? I said, because solar thermal is a really efficient way to generate heat. You know, and everybody's like, well, I want to go all solar. I was like, so why would you go use the sun to generate electricity to generate heat when you could just use the sun and generate heat? You know, it's like energy equation stuff of physics. It's like go for the direct route, right? That's what you need to do is go for the direct route. And so next picture, this is us making them. And basically, I don't have the best picture of them. Oh, that there's a picture that follows us, but so they're about 8 inches, and there's this, you know, inside of this super stuff. Everything we have is made in the United States, except for one part is made in Germany. And that is my goal, is to make that here. Because I'm interested in rebuilding an industrial economy that makes sense, right? Where we make things that we need here. But so it's like an 8x4, no, a 4x8 or a 4x10 or a 4x6 box. And then in it, and there's a special, not a plexiglass, a special kind of treated glass. It goes through, it gets warm in the box, basically. And when it gets warm in the box or it gets hot, the way my son Gway explains it, it gets hot, you be warm. That's what he says. You know, it says it gets hot in the box and then it turns on a thermostat, which you can run off solar. And it triggers a fan that blows, that thermostat triggers the fan that blows the hot air into your house. Cool, huh? That's what you need, especially because Minnesota, cold as could be in the winter, but tell you what, sunny. Whole northern plains, cold, sunny. So our interest is in heating houses because you got to heat. And a lot of people suffer from fuel poverty. And not everybody has enough wood to heat their house. I mean, I have wood, heat, and solar thermal, and I have propane as a backup. You know, believe me, I'm so done with propane, right? So done, so trying. But you know, you got to start. So next picture. This is us installing on our office. Now they had this office, they built the solar thermal panels there. And then I mentioned that after my liberation from Enbridge 4.0 into Enbridge 5.0, well, there were some really great donors that helped us, and we bought a new facility. We moved these guys in there. It was set up longitudinally. And so my hemp, this is my hemp plant now. That's where I'm going to decorticate my hemp. And, but that's those panels on the south facing wall. Cool, huh? And so we make them in our community, and we sell them. You know, pandemic was kind of slow, but I was like, you guys are still cold, aren't you? You know, but now our sales are picking up, and we employ about 8 people. Next picture. And then you could go big. This is the transition at Navajo. On the Navajo reservation, they had 5 coal-fired power plants and 4 coal strip mines. They're all closing down and getting phased out. Mojave, San Juan, Four Corners, just monstrous facilities. You know, a lot of our tribal communities in the West have large coal reserves and uranium reserves. I spent most of my life fighting those guys. And now in the era of climate change, they're closing those down. But those tribes still have the infrastructure of a grid. And so, you know, this is Navajos, and they're adapting some of their brownfields to solar, 28 megawatts. That's a Kayenta project. There's a bunch of them. And there's a new assistant, I don't know, she's the Secretary of Indian Energy. Her name is Wahala Johns. She did that project. Biden appointed some really good Indian people. Right. So I'm like, go Wahala, rock that, you know. But that's, you know, that's how change is made too, right? People too. And she pushed, you know. Okay, next picture. This is just a little potential on wind in the Basin Electric, which is, you know, this monstrous coal generating. And, you know, I'm just pointing out that there's like class 7 wind. And my tribe itself has class 4. We're the ones up in northern Minnesota. And so I'm interested in building a wind solar economy, you know, with a lot of local heating from wood and solar, right? That's what I'm working on. Seems like I could stay busy, huh? But like our model is like everybody's model should be. You know, the power of the grid went down. Price of fossil fuels is like the vagaries of a fossil fuel economy. You spend a quarter of your money on fossil fuels, you're like jacked up miserably, right? Late stage addiction. That's what it is. It's late stage addiction. When you do all kind of crazy stuff like repress thousands of people so you can get oil, right? Wars, invasions, right? I think being an addict is a problem. Addicts don't make good decisions. Dealers shouldn't make decisions for addicts. That's what's going on, right? I'm like, time to move along. Time to move along. Right. And you got to do it and you got to scale it. You know, so it's not just your little farm that has it, but it's your little community has it. Right? Because that's how you get power, is scale and work together. Work together across, you know, lines, and that's how you make change. Okay, next picture. Oh yeah, and this is like really geeky slide that shows how much energy we waste. 67% of our energy is wasted between point of origin and point of consumption. Did y'all hear me say that? 67% of our energy is wasted between point of production and point of consumption. I mean, think about it. That power's coming far on old lines. Your gas lines are leaking. Your appliances are ancient. You got all kind of crazy gadgets, right? I mean, if you just start adding it up, you're like, wow, that's dumb, right? So what you need is local energy, right? I think everybody should have like an electric bike in their, or a bike in their house to generate electricity. Yeah, think about that. You ever go to the gym and they see all those electric things? And I was like, why don't they just power the gym? Right? Or then I saw someplace like in an airplane magazine where you could power your laptop off of your bike. I said, yeah, could do that. You know, could do that, right? You'd be a lot better shape, right? But then, you know, there's larger scale, like, you know, community solar, right? Maybe that's what you need, or, you know, but there's no need to try to pretend that we're going to meet present demand. Because why would you want to meet present demand if they waste that much? No, you'd want to be more efficient because it matters. And so it's doable. You just got to quit. You know, we got to quit them. We got to stop them. Single largest energy consumer in the state of Minnesota. Single largest energy consumer in the state of Minnesota is Enbridge, because moving sludge takes power. So what if I cut that guy out, right? You understand what I'm saying? I'm like, quit. Just quit powering dumb stuff, right? Power good stuff. Power infrastructure that makes sense. Not, you know, theirs. So, okay, next picture. Oh, perfect. This is what you need to power with your energy infrastructure. This is called solutionary rail. I don't know if any of you heard about this, the Backbone campaign. This is a ingenious idea. It's really the idea of the future. So what's more efficient, rubber on the road or metal on metal? Oh yes, metal on metal. Energy equations are kind of what you need at this point in time to figure out like how to be the most efficient. Train is far more efficient than truck. Like way more efficient. And of course, we have a train system that's an embarrassment to most first world countries. It's total embarrassment. You know, at least out here, you can catch a train. You know, where I live, 2 a.m., hang around, wait for the train to show up. You know, and So you need to rebuild a train system, but you need to rebuild it electric. Because it turns out that why are the electric cars moving ahead? Well, it's like 100 parts versus 1,000 parts in an engine. A combustion engine is 16% efficient, and an electric engine is 65% efficient. So what kind of society hangs around with a 16% efficient system? Not a smart one, right? You move along. You move along, but you got to generate that power. Best to generate it locally, best to think about what you're doing, and best to use the most efficient forms of transportation, which are a rail, right? Quit moving toxic stuff, start moving people, you know? But anyway, their proposal is actually to run it, I mean, because it turns out that the rail lines run all across those reservations to the west, and they also run through the biggest wind belt. And so they want a direct current. They want to use distributed energy to power this. Interesting idea. Totally technically possible. Next picture. And then there's this picture. Right? Does it make us feel smart? Not so smart, huh? Not only do we not have electric trains, we don't have electric trains, right? But that's what the infrastructure bill needs to be about. This is what we need, is infrastructure that's going to transform the society's energy equations and how we live and move us out of the individual car into the trains. You know, solutionary rail, that's what those guys are called. Next picture. All right, this is my village. This is the village of Pine Point. I live out in the woods, let me just be honest, or on the farm. I'm not much of a town girl, but that's my cousin's art on the side of one of our houses. So my village at Pine Point, where over the next, where I've worked, but we're going to just focus in on it, trying to buy the land around it from the corporate polluters and build a hemp economy there. That's what we're doing, actually. But we decided we should paint the 50-year-old housing project. So we muraled a bunch of them up. I'd like to do another 4 or 5 this summer. And if you're going to live in a 50-year-old HUD housing project, might as well paint it, put a solar panel on. Yeah. Make some place beautiful. Next picture. So this is Port of Duluth, the furthest inland port. This is wind turbine parts coming in from Europe. This would be my point on how you rebuild a real economy. Make stuff that matters here. My personal strategy is you should take out or just take all them pipes and turn them into wind turbines. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem like structurally too hard. It's a little work. Right? Quit importing them all. I think we have like 1 turbine manufacturer in this country. Top 10 are Europe and Chinese. So you could see this. You could see these shipments coming in at the Port of Duluth all the time. So make a local economy that makes sense. We're going to manufacture, figure out how to manufacture stuff that matters here. Everything from the textile industry that was offshored in the 1990s. Bring them back. Bring them back. Rebuild these industries. Our next slide. And pray hard. This is Dr. Emoto's photos of water crystals. And I hadn't really thought about it, of course, because you go through life and you don't think about these things, but obviously water crystals are beautiful. Snowflakes are beautiful and water crystals are beautiful. Well, they get polluted, they don't look so symmetrical and they look sad. But if you pray hard, you could bring back life because water's life. Right. So pray hard and do the right thing. Like, don't pray hard and be a jerk. Pray hard. Right? Pray hard and do the right thing, right? And that's what we've been doing, praying with our water. Praying with our water. Even the pipe, I sat there by the river and we cried, I said, well, what do I think? Who's going to be here 100 years from now, the pipe or the river? River. Just got to make sure there's no oil in the pipe, but that pipe ain't going to last. the rivers are going to be here, you know, in their mightiness, right? So I just like pray to the water, you know, it makes things better. Then next picture. So this is Evo Morales, former president, now hanging out in Bolivia after the lithium coup. But he's back. But in 2008, Ecuador declared the rights of nature as a part of their constitution. 2010, Bolivia did. Kind of leading indigenous-led, recodifying indigenous legal systems or thought, Inda Kingamin, the land to which we belong, in our own, you know, legal and regulatory institutions. In 2016, the Wanganui River in Aotearoa, New Zealand, was recognized as having the rights of a river. You know, that movement has continued, and take the next picture. I think I have, yeah, that's the Wanganui River in Aotearoa or New Zealand, rights of a river. Next picture. This is the Klamath. The Yurok tribe declared the rights of the Klamath. As to the Nez Perce declared the rights of the snake, you know, saying that the river, that's their life. Those are downriver people or upriver people. Those are some of the caretakers of the river. The young women who have those ceremonies in their songs, including their earth renewal ceremonies. But that river has a number of dams that are coming down. Big battles over the Klamath. Big battles. But those dams are coming down. FERC ordered them down, and Warren Buffett relinquished. It's who owned the dams, Warren Buffett. Really, yeah? Railroads and the dams. He played Monopoly as a kid, I can tell. I was like, you got the railroads and the dams, buddy, right? I'm sorry, but y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, my tribe declared the rights of wild rice in 2019 as a part of our tribal regulatory authority. And then in August of last year, our tribe sued on behalf of wild rice in tribal court. And federal court remanded the DNR back to tribal court. I don't know how it is all going to go, but I know we did. And then I know that I think the next picture, this is Ecuador in 2021, in December of 2021, the Ecuadorian Constitutional Court overruled the mining permits of a Ecuadorian mining company and a Canadian mining company to mine in a protected area, saying that the rights of nature superseded the rights of the corporations. 2021, December, Ecuador. So that is what a real transition looks like. You know, from the seed to the law, right? That transformation. And that is how they, you know, and I look to those relatives from the South for their thinking. You know, the United States is backwards in many ways. You know, the 1% electric train was a pretty, you know, good example. We some backwards people over here, right? So, you know, there's plenty of lessons and opportunities to look for. You know, but ultimately, I feel like that it is back to this agreement, you know, you have between peoples. Over the last 10 years, you've seen Native nations make new treaties, the Treaty of the Buffalo, right? The Treaty of the Salish Sea, treaties to protect and to make an agreement to be responsible. And I feel, I see that. And then I look across and I see, the times they are changing. And it's our opportunity in these times to really, take that step on the green path. Keep pushing with our social movements because the systems are falling apart. We could all pretend, but don't look good. Doesn't look good. But America's just a kind of a blink, really. People get kind of like, this is it. I was like, kind of recent, new to the game. Don't look like you know what you're doing. That'd be, I think, an indigenous observation about America. Right? Nice try. Not so good. Not so good. But this is our opportunity to make something better, right? Walk through the portal. Take what we want. Next picture. This is kind of the deconstructing of manifest destiny. The manifest destiny picture. I could have shown you that too. The white lady going west with all those plows and things. This is the indigenous woman coming from the west, going east, fixing up things. Here, let's bring back some buffalo. Oh, really? Those things need to go. We'll move along. Bring back the animals. And these buffalo herds are returning in the northern plains. Yeah, there's big herds coming back, big herds. We eat a lot of buffalo meat in our area, a lot of buffalo meat. Deer and fish mostly, but buffalo too. So just reimagine, remember, restore who we are, our relations, right? Be better people. Next picture. This is some granddaughters. First one there is my granddaughter. There's her nieces. My retirement plan right there. Them and them boys, man, I tell you. Horse farming boys. Yep. They don't know some other stuff, but they know horses. And we think that's good. I think that's it. Next picture, just our organization. So I direct this organization 30 years, my 30th anniversary this next year. I'm gonna say I'm retiring. I'm gonna tell the board I want to go to the board because I basically just want to grow food. I want to grow hemp, and help transform this, make something new. Well, we're fighting them, guys. And, in the course of line 3, we got a lot of support. We have a huge mailing list, pretty big donor base. I was like, should we just say that was good? But nah. So let's go help those other communities fight. So they're fighting some big stuff up there and we're right behind them, weighing in and the battle's going to be tough, but I think we got a couple of good shots here. We're taking them. In the meantime, I'm just going to grow a bunch of hemp, and by the time their bad idea gets dissolved in shareholders' resolutions and unfulfilled promises, the hemp economy will be there, right? Because that's how it works. The longer you fight them, the more expensive their project gets, right? Like with the Keystone XL, and they never say, we're sorry, that was a bad idea. No, they just say that, economics have changed. Investors have other interests. Never say they're sorry for the trauma they caused you. But I'm like, that's okay, pack your stuff. We'll stay here. Miigwech, thank you for your time, and I'm happy to have a discussion. Miigwech. Thank you. Yeah, you're in charge.
So we have a little time before lunch, so thank you for opening the discussion. There's a microphone. Maybe I was sensitive.
Oh, my fellow criminal water protector.
You need to turn it on.
No, maybe it's on.
Yeah, it's on now.
Okay.
Yes, Melinda.
So the line 3 never had an environmental impact statement,
No federal environmental impact statement.
and it's operating. And it has, as you said, it's damaged stock because it's. Is there, do you see any way legally for, a court to, I mean, I feel like if a court did rule, it needed to have one after the fact and could shut it down legally. They wouldn't do it. They just wouldn't do it. But do you think there's any route to closing this
In
thing
the
down?
courts, yeah. We have not had, you were right. There's a federal court case where my tribe and the other tribes have said there's no federal EIS on this. This merits a federal environmental impact statement. They've missed many points. And that is still pending in federal court. And so maybe the federal court will say no, to this project. The challenge is getting them to enforce it because, Dakota Access Pipeline ordered to close down by federal court did not close down. I mean, that's what happens when, dealers dictate your policies, as they do whatever they want to and nobody closes them down. They didn't send $38 million worth of troops to close it down, did they? No. And the same thing in Minnesota. I think that we have a lot of state court proceedings and their violations and our tribal court proceedings. I mean, what they've done, they're criminal, and so we are pushing. And Enbridge did say, they said in all of their lies, maybe the one thing they did say, which was true, was that they actually didn't need the pipeline for as long as they thought because times had changed. So it's in for maybe 10 or 15 years. I was like, you're so horrible, but they said regulatory changes and climate crisis is causing them to revisit their long-term petroleum delivery strategy. I was like, so we're just going to dog them. We're going to dog them and make them more and more sad and pull their hair out. And then the sooner, the better, the more we dog them, the sooner they leave. And Tim Walz is a shameful governor of Minnesota. He approved all this. And he also, he's coming back with new projects that are horrible. I was like, your biggest public works project in northern Minnesota is taking out the old line 3, buddy. That's $2 billion worth of labor, no hardware. But Enbridge is trying to get out of all that by this landowner's choice. Makes it sound like it's your choice to leave it in there. I was like, I think that Leech Lake is going to nail them. One tribe has, crosses them. So we're going to keep in all of those legal and regulatory processes. And, for now, like I said, after this winter, I got them off my doorstep. I mean, literally between me and the guy in the back of the room at the camera. That's how far away they were from my office. It was just like, and they just did it to mess with us, because, I wasn't doing anything illegal and they already had us all wiretapped. I was like, yeah, 7 golden girls are going to go stand in front of one of your buildings. Ha! Right. That's right. I'm like, I didn't get my conspiracy charges yet. I've been trying to avoid them, but but fortunately we actually didn't know there were so many different people doing so many different things, right? Yeah. We'll keep on them, but I don't know. And then the biggest hope is really in Wisconsin, where the Bad River Tribe has asked them to remove their pipe because it's a trespass. And that's, they asked for a summary judgment. And so they're having a hard time in Wisconsin. They have to go all the way around their reservation. They were going to replace the 13 miles of pipe across it. And they said, no, said, you can't come back here, you're trespassing, you got to pull the pipe. And so they're trying to come up with this really convoluted, giant, like a crochet loop that's got a huge amount of opposition, and it's a bad scene. And then Michigan, you know, I think that we weakened them significantly. They didn't get a lot of brownie points for line 3. They got a lot of shit on their face, and we're just going to keep it up, you know. And one of the other things that we're doing is obviously upholding, you know, lifting up the water protectors, you know, with the Drop the Charges campaign. I told the Attorney General, I was like, you should drop my charges. You should drop all of our charges, and you should give me a medal for defending the waters of the state of Minnesota, because you didn't, you know. And I think that that's really, you know, a lot of this is also the really importance of taking your narrative. You know what I'm saying? It's because I started watching these court cases and I was like, I'm not hanging my head. We are not hanging our head going to court. We're water protectors, and you guys are you know, criminals. And so that's really what, you know, I've been trying to do, is really not only honor the water protectors. We had some honorings, but, you know, also just like, and, you know, people could come see us in the summer. We're having, I think the middle of June, we're going to have a nice camp back on the Shell River. That's funny. I mean, I'm moving back to the Shell River. We bought a farm right by the camp because we liked it so much. I was like, back. And they asked me, the DNR stopped over at my house. The head of the DNR, the regional, he said, so what's your plans this summer? I said, camping. I said, nice campgrounds. We'll just go back. They are prime. You know, if you ever want to go to northern Minnesota, the Shell City Campground, that's where we'll be. That's where we were last year. 5 months. Very nice camping. Yeah. So, yeah. I think you have, if you get on that, then they can hear you in the other world that we're not in.
Yeah, sure. Hi, thank you, first of all.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Something that you said that resonated was being intentional about creating an ecosystem of reuse or full circleness. I think a circular, thanks. Yeah.
Being cyclical systems, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks, everybody. And I do like a couple like composting things for like what I do.
Good.
To answer that arbitrary question sometimes. And I'm kind of curious how you think about a cyclical system on the hemp farm. Like what?
The what?
On the hemp farm, like what gets used and then what gets composted, and just, it's a very particular question, but I'm just curious how that.
About our composting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we grow, I mean, all kind of vegetables, right? And the hemp is just one of the things. And so I'm composting everything that's there. And then I have, did I mention I have a lot of horses?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're composting,
Cool.
right? And we're building soil. And then the other thing that we are doing is fish guts. Fish guts, because we have a lot of fish. And so we've been grinding them, and you can, if you grind your fish guts, you can put them on a manure spreader and spread them around in your fields with your horses. It's very aromatic and exciting. But you know, the kind of stuff I'm working on, and I'll just tell you, because you guys are all smart people out here, but this is like, so there's these guys called Neptune's Harvest up in Gloucester, right? And then there's this Dram, and they do commercial scale fish emulsion. And I want to do that. Red Lake has a whole bunch, they could do that, right? But we don't, you know, that's kind of like where we're getting to. And right now I'm doing smaller scale, but you got to build soil. And that's, and you know, all of this need to go back in the soil. And so that's one of our, you know, we have like about, the new economy projects are big, and they need love and attention and probably some more business management. You know, I'm an economist by training, but I'm a rural development economist. I'm kind of in the community wealth. You know, I could do the numbers on the cost of goods for that fish emulsion facility, but you don't want me to do that. Right? So all kind of stuff that we're doing with our composting, but we have a lot of really great wealth to compost. And then we have kind of the complicated, you know, because we have goats now. So before composting, there's goats, right? I mean, they like all that squash that's kind of half done or whatever. So yeah, it's super interesting. And then they kind of compost for you. You know, they work their stuff through, right? Yeah.
Hi, really enjoyed your talk. The recurrent theme was economies that, you know, maybe at one point existed, but no longer do at the same scale. And I've spent a lot of time in Yellowstone with the buffalo.
That's why you were nodding with the buffalo, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
You probably remember Buffalo Field Campaign.
So were you at Buffalo Field Campaign?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
thank you.
Thank you. You're quoted first month in our calendars. But one thing I learned from the buffalo is that they're really good teachers. You watch them, you know, exist in those crazy, you know, gnarly winter conditions, and then, you know, whatever the government chooses to do to them that year, they just keep persisting. And the Tonka Fund, are you familiar with them?
Mhm.
Yeah, they're trying to create a buffalo-based economy,
Yep.
which I think has so much promise. And you know, I've watched the buffalo go through almost anything, you know, in Yellowstone. So, you know, what do you think about a buffalo-based economy?
Yeah, I think that you need a buffalo-based economy exactly in that territory. I'm like the wild rice maple sugar-based economy. You know what I'm saying? But that's exactly what you do is you need to rebuild economies based on the land that you have. You know, and that whole region and that Buffalo Treaty, right? And the Tonka Fund is a really good inspiration. And I actually want to model our work at King on the Tonka Fund, like where you tell the story of where you're going. Yeah, yeah. No, they do very good work out there at the Tonka Fund. And I feel like that there is a lot of, you know, the story I'm telling is a story that could be in a lot of other people's stories, you know? Everybody has their like regional local place, right? And if you guys don't have buffalo, you should probably just eat a lot more vegetables, okay? It's okay. You know, I'm just saying, like, not everybody should eat massive amounts of meat. Northern people need some meat, you know? We need some, yeah, some calories in the wintertime. But yeah, they're a really good example. And there's like the salmon people. You know what I'm saying is that there's, and then we, you know, huh? Right, the Nimipu, right. And I mean, but I think it's like, you know, I've seen these different bioregionalism, you know, books, and I think regional economies, very critical, you know, and then under, you know, smaller. But, you know, in this pandemic, I really spent a lot of time thinking about it, you know, and more than once, you know, I mean, everybody is like in this panic of anxiety for some pretty good reasons. Catastrophes of biblical proportions should give you a little anxiety, you know? But then I was like, wait, that's what those people were telling me all this time. I've been talking about this for 30 years. This time's gonna come. I was like, looks like it's here. Just like, you know, get it together. Sober yourself up, you know? Go start growing your local economy, you know? And then just keep pushing. You know, so here I am, like trying to figure out the goats. I like the goats. I like the goat cheese. Well, it turns out there's 200,000 Somalis in Minneapolis who get their goat meat from, oh, that's right, New Zealand. That's a very high carbon footprint. Like, what if you were in the post Pillsbury Doughboy economy in Minnesota? That's the goat economy, you know? And so I'm like working on my cheese making skills, right? Which is what you should do if you have goats. You should make goat cheese, right? And all of these, you know, and rebuild this economy, you know. And so we're going to be raising a bunch of goats for this market, but also a bunch of, you know, cheese and things like that. You know, it's an emergent, I mean, like, but how fun is that? You know what I'm saying? It's like you get a chance because it's all collapsing. you get a chance to make a new economy that's based on, providing food to the people, who are there. And I'm excited as heck, I did it a few times. They came up and got goat for me, like an halal right there on the farm. I was like, that's good. I did good. We raised your goat good, And it's okay. I don't need to raise pigs. Someone else can raise pigs. I'll just raise goats for you, Yeah.
And with the new economy, where's your go-to resource around guidance and support for your worker cooperative model? Because it's new to think of worker cooperatives here in New Haven. Several community groups have been thinking and toying with, but then where to find resources to guide in developing that.
I don't know if I heard, but I mean, there's a number of cooperatives, right? And it's a strong model. I'm kind of a by any means necessary kind of woman. Sometimes you want a cooperative, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you want to just support little farmers that want to do something. That's cool. The hemp cooperative is because it's such a nascent economy in these questions of technology and seed and investment and value-added processing and where's it going? Oh yeah, that's a lot of questions. And not a lot of investment into it. I mean, we just got another award for our work because everybody because people want to grow recreational marijuana. And that's cool. But I'm saying is that that's how lazy we are. We don't want to figure this other one out. And this is what we got to figure out. So that's why we have a co-op, is because, and we're just actually creating the co-op. We had our meeting, our hemp conference at the beginning of the month, a month ago now. And this is where this discussion came up, if we want to, of like how to form it and to make sure that farmers in our region have access to seeds and have access to support. Super exciting, but there's so many different, models. And I feel like that one of the challenges I think that we have in the progressive movement a lot of times is you spend a lot of time talking about stuff. That's an understatement. I mean, and who's going to do this and how's this going to be done? And I really want to be present, and not everybody need to be present. I just want to say that right now. Like, not everybody needs to be at every decision. It's really, I don't make a lot of decisions. May surprise you. I actually have no reason to make those. I was like, tell me what you think and then we'll do that. Because they have more expertise than I do, And I think that that's really important, because a lot of the clinginess of where we're at is we want agency, but at the same time, not all things need to be so difficult. Don't make it difficult. Paralyze yourself, in your political correctness. I always heard that there's a great Zapatista quote: "An island of political correctness unto yourself." That sounds kind of useless, huh? Lonely. Yes, sister. You got to talk into the mic a little more.
Into the mic.
Oh, yeah. Now we hear
you. My question is, how did you know, and when did you know you were a water protector? And how did you step into that power? And the third question is, how are you managing rage?
Okay, yeah. Well, in Anishinaabe teachings, women are responsible for the water. That give you all our ceremonies. I've been doing water ceremonies my whole life. So yeah, it was pretty easy, but then you don't really think about it. You do that, and then you start looking at how much water there is, how much is fresh water, how much is drinkable. And then you're like, oh, I see. But where I live, there's 47 lakes and 500 bodies of water. I live in a world that's half water and half land. That's the Great Lakes, that's the north, right? And so water's like pretty present. And you know, you have relatives, you know, that are in the water, clans like sturgeon. Long time ago, I helped bring back some sturgeon to my community. And those are relatives in the water. So, you know, I think we always were that. And then in the Enbridge battle, there was a certain point on Enbridge Sandpiper where the tribal chairwoman of the Fond du Lac Reservation, which had sold out to Enbridge, called me out and said, I don't want any protesters on our land. I said, I'm not a protester, I'm a water protector. I said, I'm not a protester, I'm a water protector. And, you know, I don't think we'd ever really thought about articulating that, but the birth and the renaissance of the water protector movement. I mean, people have protected water our whole lives and for generations. People fought over protecting water. You know, all our cultures have gone to our sacred springs, right? Have gone to our sacred springs, understanding that water is life. Then you just kind of forget it when you get indoor plumbing. You get kind of, you know, take it for granted. That'd be an apt description, right? Like, I don't know, this could be good. It's going to come in a pipe. It'll be all good. You know, and so, but, you know, I spent most of my life protecting wild rice and, you know, and then Enbridge is the last 8 years. And then, you know, and then at a certain point you look around and you're like, I mean, on the Enbridge pipeline battle, I wasn't my idea. They brought it they wanted to run it on the reservation. They wanted to run the pipe right across the reservation. And I didn't know anything about it, you know? I didn't know anything. Nobody paid any attention to infrastructure. Who pays attention to pipes? None of us paid attention to pipes until about 10 years ago. Let's just be honest. I didn't pay attention to pipes. I was like, guess they're there. All right. And then I was like, wait, that's a really bad idea. And so then I had to summon up my own, like, smack myself up and say, look, LaDuke, you're the person who knows about energy infrastructure. You're the person who understands this stuff. Doesn't look like anybody up in your community knows what, you know, this story. I said, just do it. You know, and so necessity requires you sometimes to do things that you're not, you know, you're like, oops, okay, I guess we're it. You know, but our strategy was really to organize a bunch of people, get a bunch of people mad and inform them, because we should be mad. And so I wrote for all the local papers, and, you know, my idea was to get all the Norwegians mad, you know, because they all live up there too. And we did. We got a lot of supporters. 68,000 people came out against the Enbridge pipeline. All kind of people oppose that line, you know. And so sometimes if you know, the strategy is to organize a lot of people, you know, because it's great to be a political island of political correctness unto yourself, but that's not going to change the world, you know. So we cost them millions of dollars and a lot of pain. And it ain't done, far from done. You know, so then you just kind of muster up your spot in history, and you do your best to take, you know, your responsibility for it. And rage, I don't know. I mean, what do I do when I'm angry about things? And sometimes I take it out on a pile of wood. Go split some wood. You know, get something useful out of that one, right? I mean, to be honest, you know, I mean, just go and, you know, do something physical, because a lot of us get all like, you know, in our heads, and actually really not that healthy for us, right? So I do that, and then I usually feel better if I write about it, or if you know, I'm writing an article, or I'm like, I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna go, you know, so that makes me feel better to call out their bullshit. Makes me feel a lot better, you know, just call it out. And then, but then also, like, do something way cooler, which doesn't really take much, does it? But I'm like, have some concerts, you know, go dance by the river, pray by the river, grow cool hemp, potatoes. I mean, they, you know, you could see those guys because we like are cool. They are not. You know, so we'd walk in and we'd be dressed kind of like me or all our cool ribbon skirts and everything. And they'd be like hanging their heads and their little like khaki pants and their blue shirts that were provided by Enbridge. And be like, tough to be soulless, huh? That's the other thing, make fun of them. You know, because don't take their shit seriously, really. I mean, you know, really. I mean, sure, they're daunting and evil, but I mean, they're a joke. You know, it's just like really unbelievable. And so call them out, you know, and then be super happy. Oh, that makes them mad. You know, don't let anybody like take your joy. Don't let those guys take your joy. It's not their right. You know, grow your own joy, keep making beautiful things, you know. And then what are they gonna say? Oh, they're so happy. Yep. Yeah, good question though. Thanks. Here's sister.
Thank you. It's an honor to learn from you. One of the things I wanted to talk about that somehow gives me some discouragement about the Green New Deal and all of this talk about the change is, I think a lot of the talk about renewable or other alternative to fuel energy is how do I find another way to continue to exploit the earth so I can continue living with my, I don't have to make any sacrifices with my lifestyle, which is kind of like what I see in America in general, that you already talked about. We really need to decrease our consumption, especially in America. And but the other thing that worries me about is corporations are clever. As soon as
Corporations what?
are very clever. Like if we say we're going to move away from coal and fossil fuel, now we're going to move to renewable energy, then they're going to say, okay, this is a new hot thing, and now we're going to invest and exploit the earth to create more, I don't know, windmills and solar. And like one example of in Honduras, I believe one part of the coup was because some of the transnationals were trying to build hydroelectrics, and they displaced indigenous communities so they could come and build their hydroelectric. And to some extent, yeah, it's not fossil fuel, but you are still creating a huge amount of damage to the earth and to the local communities. So how do we find a balance where we can kind of shift that conversation from it's not enough to change to renewable energy, but we also have to, in a way, start thinking about dismantling capitalism, which is what is actually has caused the biggest damage to Earth.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good question, and there's no easy answer, you know. So my strategy, you see, that's my strategy. Do something local, grow it out, keep growing it out. And you know, I mean, in 2003, we won the Slow Food Award, International Slow Food Award, for our protection of wild rice from genetic engineering, right? And in that time, you know, which is 20 years ago now, of winning the Slow Food Award, like I didn't really think about that a lot. Like I hadn't really thought about that our wild rice was super sustainable. You know what I'm saying? Is I hadn't really thought about it. But then I traveled the world, basically looking at slow food and communities in other places that had valued quality over quantity and heritage varieties, right? And so I saw that and saw that there's this movement. And you could bet on globalization or you can bet on relocalization. Right now, I'm going to bet on relocalization. And you see it everywhere. You know, I mean, I'm fully aware that Amazon ships, you know, but I also am fully aware that the resurgence of like the microbreweries You know what I'm saying is that, and I don't know, we need the micro cheeseries too, or whatever that firm, you know what I'm saying, is we need the resurgence, but they are well welcomed. They are welcomed. And I can see, you know, I can see clearly like my future in goat cheese. I see it. You know, it's quite obvious that Minnesota needs a goat cheese, you know, purveyors of fine goat cheeses, right? And for that little thing of Chev you can buy at the store for $4, I'm like, oh yeah, I got you on that one. Make you that one today. My point is that it is growing. This, you know, this is growing. And with that, they're going to keep greenwashing. They're going to keep saying things, but we just keep growing. You just keep growing. And you take their power when you build your own, right? You take their power and you don't need them. And then they look at you too. And like, this question with this Offutt Corporation, you know, their father hates me. Like how I know he hates me is he's on the board of trustees of Concordia University. And twice they've tried to give me an honorary doctorate and he has vetoed it from the chair of the board of trustees. I'm like, you're a jerk. I'm like, you know what I'm saying is like, that's like a personal jerk. Right. But I was like, you know, but his daughter likes me. This is my theory is that the 1% may not like me, but their daughters do. You know, and that's, if you look out there, that's who is financing a lot of this movement. You know, our largest supporters are coming from the, you know, the daughters and wives and the divorced wives and the widows of the 1%. That's who's financing us. And why is that? Because they can see what is going on. And they are tired of what their husbands did. They're tired of it. And there's a lot of people that are tired of it. And so there are some of these corporate guys that are can continue on that trajectory, but their support is falling. And women outlive men. So I'm kind of voting on the women on this one, right? I'm like, well, I think it's going to looking pretty good on this one, you know, but, you know, and then I'll do my part. I'll do my part. But our largest donors are women of my age or older. And I'm grateful. I'm super grateful for that because without them, you know, but then in the Offutt question, like which exemplifies the single largest independent potato farmer in this country is RDO Offutt. They like own so much and they have been so toxic. You know, I'm like, Christy, go hemp. Christy, go hemp. I was like, and so I'm going to go hemp on that land. I'm going to say, look, Christy, this is your solution. You got to go organic hemp. It's a huge crop that needs that much acreage. And, you know, we're going to rebuild this economy with hemp. So I'm just going to do it. But then I see on the sidelines, the University of Minnesota, I mean, you know, they can't, you know, I was like, and Texas A&M, same thing. Texas A&M is working with these big ag producers to go to hemp. They are. So is the U. I was like, that's right. That's right. You know, and so it by any means possible, you know, some of them are going to hang on to their bad ideas to the end, you know, see ya. You know, the rest of us are going to make something far more beautiful and we got a much better shot at quality of life. And, you know, I'm not going to spend all my time thinking about their latest crazy idea. You know, I'm just going to keep doing the cooler thing, you know, and do my best to stop their bad ideas. That's what we got to do, you know, and there's many ways to do that, but thanks for your question.
So good. It's so good. I just wanted to say the food is not here yet. And I'm also wanting to really be considerate what Winona's been traveling extensively and also just got over the flu as well. So I'm thinking that instead of trying to stretch into an afternoon, that why don't we take a few more questions, discussion when the food arrives, and then just commune over lunch together and have that be the end of our day. So I wanted to give a heads up on that. And I know that there are some more questions coming. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
No, I'm enjoying my visit with y'all. Good. How are you? Yeah, you look really familiar. I was like,
and so I've watched your video, the First Order and the Black Snake. Amazing, amazing. And we've also been fortunate to order your rice. I wish we could plant it and grow it here, but I guess the benefit of going to your place and helping out and grabbing some rice and taking taking it home with us would be a pleasure. And I also watched in your video when somebody asked, what do you do with your rage? You always say in the video, when you get depressed, sew a dress, because I know you make your little jingle dresses.
Right, I sew.
You sew, exactly. So two things, I just wanted to let you know that you have a group here that we pray daily to the Creator for strength and courage and support for you. Because, you are a human being, and at some point you physically and mentally have to say, you get tired, you just get tired of it all. So I want you to know that we are in prayer daily.
Thank you.
To the Creator for everything that you need, that He will provide for you and your family.
Did I mention that business planning support for the hemp industry?
Okay.
It's getting kind of specific now.
I'll put that up there. I had to
Put that on the
say
list, just like, yeah, getting kind of specific here, but sometimes you got to be more specific in your
Listen,
prayers.
That's exactly, it's specific and that's how we pray. And the other thing is that, have you ever heard from any of the other leaders, or alliance? Have you had Deb Haaland, has anybody ever called you and said, we're here for you, we got you on this?
You mean like the leaders in DC? No, Deb did not. I mean, I know that Deb supports us.
Yeah.
But they muzzled that woman. And she had no actual technical hook to stop this project. It was Army Corps engineers, and that's what's in court. They didn't change, because the Biden administration traded the Keystone pipeline for this one. That's what he did, and so we got a pipe, and I sent a note to the new head of the National Park Service, though. His name is Chuck Sams. It's really funny because he was my student. I was like, Boogie. His name is Boogie. Boogie, this is what we need. The Apostle Islands, we need them returned. Can you work on that one while you're on your land back? So that's what I sent him, a little note, that tribal chairman of the Bad River, pointing out that the Apostle Islands is held by the National Park Service and the tribes want it back. I was like, yep, that's you, Boogie. You could do this one for us. So I'm going to call on that. And then I do intend to really support the Wahala Johns and the energy, so. And the feds have been good to me on hemp. I'm the only tribal person with a federal hemp permit for fiber. She was like, really? You want fiber? I was like, yep. She was like, oh, that's so great. It's really funny, my little person in the USDA. And so I feel like that there's some good people in there. There's some good people in there. And, but I'm going to just continue on. And I don't really do a lot with federal money. Gives me a headache.
Yeah.
Although I have some colleagues that are doing some looking at that, like hemp and carbon sequestration. I was like, you get the grant, then you give us some money. We'll grow, but don't make me manage a grant. Other people should do that. I don't want to do that. I want to just, otherwise you just get into like, well, you don't need me to tell you, just get like way too much administrative headache. So.
Thank you for answering my question.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks for. Look.
Ms. LaDuke, thank you first off for being here. Deep bow to you and the work that you're doing. Really appreciate it. I have been monitoring the chat for the folks who are in Zoom land, and there are some questions.
That's great. Hello, Zoom people.
So question one is there a way that we can support financially? Buy rice, donate, etc. And how do we do that?
Yeah, if that honor the earth and you say you want to support the hemp work, it's all good. Or just that, honor earth, we take donations and you can buy rice from us. And yeah, that's my largest mechanism. And that is really, I've always said that I'm very grateful to my donors. Because without donors, I couldn't do this. I'd be like waiting for somebody to take pity on me, and that's not me, But we bought that land. I need to finish paying off one of those parcels, because then I got another piece I want. Then I'll be better because I'll have all the land around my village, right? And that's what I need. I need to control the land around my village and make this model, right? So people can at honorearth.org. Thank you for that question, though.
Thank you. The next question is, could you speak a little bit more about story and narrative and its role in transformation?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the story of the water protector is that story. You know, that we have a name of this movement that is part of this renaissance of consciousness. And so we're not a bunch of people like all over the place. We're a movement of people who are resurging and remembering what our responsibilities are. And we need to say that. We need to say we're water protectors, you know, and I feel like that is part of the, like, and when that one tribal chairwoman said to me, you're a protester, and I said, I'm not. You know, that was this moment where I was like, no, I'm not gonna let you call me anything. You have no right to name me. I can name myself. You know, which is like a really important thing, you know, and now as I watch the courts and I went in there to Wadena County and, you know, I got up there on the witness stand, there's all these Kleenexes and I started to laugh. I said, oh, must do a lot of crying in here, you know, but it was just like, no, I know what you think, you know, you Republican judge lady, I know what you think, but that's not what we think. So just saying it, you know, and I think that also, I think it's really important, like the story I told you about the prophecies. I think it's important to ground and contextualize us, because I think that a lack of historic amnesia and a lack of knowledge about how a society that doesn't have a calendar based on Roman emperors thinks can help you a lot to think about where we are, where we're going. Right. And so I think that reaffirming, and I think that those teachings, you know, you just keep saying them, and then tell the stories of the little courageous people. You know, I was looking at, there's a book at the hotel I was at on Judy Berry. Does anybody remember Judy Berry? Right. So Judy Berry was framed. She was an Earth First person. A car bomb went off in her car. They said it was her car bomb. It was not her car bomb. After her death, she was exonerated. You know, but they try to frame, you know, our movement, our Earth First, our Buffalo Field campaign, our frontline movement of people. They try to frame us. So don't forget that. You know, I mean, I'm someone who lived through COINTELPRO. I'm still here. I was a young woman during COINTELPRO in the 70s. I saw what they were doing in the American Indian movement, Leonard Peltier in jail, all kind of stuff, you know? So keep your head high,
have to suffice.
you know, and make sure that you tell the story, you know? Make sure you tell the story and keep telling it. Don't let them blackjack at you, you know, into that you're not worthy of having human rights, right? Which is what, you know, that's what they do, you know? Insurgents, terrorists. I was like, who's the terrorist here? Let me know. Who stole my water? Enbridge. I'm not a terrorist. I'm a water protector. You know, so that's what I mean is we just, you know, be very clear and then live it, you know? All right. I know they have more questions there probably on them.
Yeah, well, just one more.
Yeah.
This one's actually mine.
That's good.
Earlier, you mentioned just having an understanding of the land and then building an economy around what's there. And the sort of local relocalization, I think we call it. And I was born and raised in New Haven. I've been here all my life. Which is to say I'm a city guy, or at least a city guy as much as Connecticut will sustain a city guy. So what economy do I look to as a city person, feeling reasonably disconnected from the land?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an urban planner. I admit this fully, right? You know, however, it's not, I mean, it's a region. The city is not, the city is an ecosystem into itself, but it is not an ecosystem into itself because it relies on the water and the food that is produced. And so the more that, we can reflect on what we make there, in these cities. I mean, there used to be a lot more like light industry. Didn't Arrow shirts come from here? Did I make this up? I don't know. Huh? Right. Right. I mean, and so what's the balance and what is the right level of industry? And what do we make? If your city makes something, I mean, it's like, I'm looking at those hemp batteries and stuff. I was like, I ain't making those on Whiter. Those are going to get made in Superior. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm not going to do certain levels of industry in my village because that requires a different level of infrastructure that I'm willing to put in my village. And so we produce things. And so there's this balance between what is, what I'm saying, is what you have in your little ecosystem of New Haven. And then, I don't know why you don't rooftop all your food and go solar. And, I mean, the thing is that Yale has a sustainability department, but they basically, I mean, I'm a graduate of Harvard and I went to MIT. I was like, what's this education for? There's this whole, I mean, I don't want to say, but by the time you're done with your college debt, what you got? Can you do anything? My father came to see me when I was an undergraduate at Harvard. And he said, Winona, you're a really smart young woman, but I don't want to hear your philosophy if you can't grow corn. That's what my father said to me. I was like 19 years old, like all proud of my little Harvard degree. And he's like, so what does that mean? Can you do anything with those brains of yours? I mean, think about how first world privilege that shit is. I mean, I went to an Ivy League school. I get it. So you should have like the equivalent of 100 slaves waiting on you so you can have smart thoughts. Give me a break. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So someplace in this, there needs to be not only a balance, like I get it. Like, I don't know, like the painters should, some people should just be great painters. I got that. Or great musicians, they should not necessarily be avid gardeners. Like Bonnie Raitt, she should just stick with that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like we give them that, we uphold them. But there's this privileging that then there's this assumption that these guys get out and they know how, they know stuff. They don't know nothing. They know the privilege that they were raised with and the paradigm that they were, raised with. I was privileged. I mean, I went to Harvard. I also went to Harvard during the anti-apartheid movement. We closed that stuff down. I mean, so students, so you learn in these institutions too. So I guess what I'm saying is like, find your place. And then you look at cities and they aren't all bad. I mean, I'm just thinking about like the carbon footprint of New York versus the carbon footprint of LA. The carbon footprint of New York is a lot smaller. So rethinking cities. Oh, that's a lot of work. You ain't got your life cut out for you guys. I mean, making those solar and local water and getting more efficient and solar, you know what I mean? So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. May the force be with you. Yes, sister.
Hello, my name's Cass, and I'm an organic farmer in Woodbridge, Connecticut, which is the unceded territory of the Pawgasset. And one thing that I'm relearning in my process of farming is that New Haven invented the technology of the Indian reservation and indigenous displacement. The first Indian reservation was created by New Haven colonists and
Was what?
was created and invented by New Haven colonists and then exported throughout the United States subsequently. And
Yeah, talk to the mic and then maybe take your mask off.
Is
I'm
this okay
super hard of hearing. I just have to say this. I'm like,
okay, yeah, and I am super soft spoken. So I'm an organic farmer. I farm on unceded Pawgasset territory, and I have been studying this history with the hopes of bringing it to the farm because I farm in Woodbridge, which has, as we all know, a history of violence and displacement and redlining and
subsequently was zoned and redlined into single family housing and no public transportation. And as a result, or one of the results of this is a historic naturalization of who gets to access the things that I care most about, which is protected land and food sovereignty and carefully grown food. And all this in the context of the fact that the reservation was invented in New Haven, and in the context of the fact that the Paugussett tribe is still relegated to only a quarter acre of land and is not federally recognized or recognized by the state of Connecticut at all. And the fact that though I'm able to farm somewhat sustainably, all of the food that I farm is super expensive and only accessible to white folks. And in the context of the fact that Connecticut was the northern state with the most enslaved people prior to abolition. And I'm trying to bring this history to the farm, and I'm wondering, you have talked about land back, and that is my dream. Like, my dream is to get our farm to give the land back and to connect with other farmers to do the same, while also building resilience and strength in the local organic farm realm in New England. And I'm curious how I've been in farmer circles doing land back work, and I'm curious what the mechanics are of that. We have an endowment on our farm because it's like a kind of bougie nonprofit farm. And I'm even thinking about that because the word endowment is a financial term that was invented during colonization. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And so I'm navigating the fact that I'm trying to live this life path of building the world that I want to see. And also it's so rife with violence in that history. And so it's really helpful to hear you talk about reclaiming the narrative, because it makes my eyes feel clearer and more hopeful. And I'm curious, I guess my question is about the mechanics of land back. How do we do this? How can...
there's no easy answer, and the price of real estate where I live is a lot lower than the price of real estate where you live, right? And I'm kind of in this battle between corporate agriculture and us. Really, that's why we bought one of these farms. I was like, they're going after that one, and we're going to get it. We're going to take it off the market. And we're going to do the right thing, right? And so, we raised money, and our donors have supported us, and I need to keep doing that. But I also feel like that in places like this, it's like, so we are a nonprofit 501c3. And you could start with that. And, I go back to this Inda King and Min, the very land to which we belong. So you are being those people of belonging to place. And then just keep growing that out. And as a part of that, you just start inviting some indigenous community people to the table. And then over time, start transitioning. And, some of those folks, I don't know this part of the community here, but some of them are going to be into gardening. Some of them are not. We're all in our own colonization process as indigenous people. We don't all have our act together for sure. So start like that, and then provide some food for feasts or ceremonies, that's one of the things that I started doing, and I delight my community because I show up with the traditional foods, and we grow all the corn for that. I'm saying it's like we grow that stuff. And what was that old dude's name? John, remember that guy? Went to see that farmer, Davis? I wrote the guy's name down. I got it. But anyway, John and it's my friend John back. John and I went to see this old dude who was he was growing King Philip's corn, and he was still growing corn on the same farm that the Pequot and the Narragansett people had given them the corn, and he provided that corn to their feasts every year, and he kept these varieties going. Is that cool or what?
That is so cool.
Yeah. So there's those old dudes like that doing that. Be those old dudes. You know what I'm saying? It's like I went and met that guy. I was like, you're cool. Yeah. Yeah, which is the same farmhouse that his ancestor had served the King Philip, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I can hang for a couple more and then I'm not gonna go any place. I'm gonna eat lunch. You can still talk to me and such. Yes.
I'm way audible. I'm feeling rather goofy and exuberant, but I decided I should go ahead and share. And I will do it in the form of saying that I'm going to bring back clear thinking, hope. I'm going to bring things back from what you said to a friend in Philadelphia. And I want to give a report from Philadelphia where I live. A friend of mine, been a community organizer and entrepreneur, is an ex-business partner of mine. He was being a house husband during the beginning of lockdown, taking care of his kids. He decided to tap his maple tree in his backyard. He started doing boils and talking to neighbors. He'd be out there all day on the weekend boiling. And he's been kind of using the maple syrup and the tapping to organize people and organizations. And this year he had a $500,000 USDA grant to organize maple tree tapping in Philadelphia and South
That's
Jersey.
great.
That's the exciting part. And everything you're saying about governments and corporations and other things being in the way, he's also experiencing that, really feeling down. And you're really going to make a sad guy happy with stories of this. So
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hang in there, man. Tap your trees. Yes, sister.
When you shared that your retirement fund is your nieces and nephews and grandchildren, just felt so excited and glad, and wanted to ask you about you're sort of describing an intergenerational, multi-ethnic local economy, that neighbors you're working with and the young folks you're inviting onto your land, but also the elders you're still learning from. I get to work with teens here in New Haven who have been displaced from a lot of different countries. And a lot of times their families have strong relationships to farming land, or, you know,
Right.
talking about the Somalis that you have
Right, that
connections
is right.
with. And we do some community gardening together, and they love, you know, we really enjoy that. But you sort of everything is pulling them away, you know, saying, you know, to be successful means to be as, you know, cerebral as possible, get as much education as possible, and maybe even to be disconnected from your family. And how, you know, inviting the youth to your farm who wanted to be there, and trying to hold these connections between generations and between you all and the land. What do you kind of come up against culturally that you have to sort of stay firm in, and how have you seen that change the lives of the youth and the elders that you work with?
Well, I mean, first of all, the pandemic kind of helped because they didn't have a lot of options. You know what I'm saying? They're like, I can't go to school, can't go to town, can't, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, how about we just hang here? Right? And then the horses. If I didn't have the horses, you know, I mean, but kids, horses, people and horses, ponies, people like ponies and carts. I mean, it's just kind of been this renaissance of joy. Super fun. I mean, and I get to be part of it. Isn't that great? I have like pony party. Did you want a pony party? I gotcha. I mean, it's like the greatest thing. You show up with like some ponies and carts, and, you know, I mean, I didn't dress my goats up yet, but you know that this is going on. And so my point is be cool, and they hang with you, right? Because we are super cool, you know. And then I see, you know, then I was up there on the Shell River, and a couple representatives of the Somali community came up, and they were dealing with the police brutality in Minneapolis. So they came up to get my testimony on my police brutality experiences, which were pretty big, you know. I had a lot of stories. And it took us about 20 minutes, and we're talking about goats, you know, because I'm like, yeah, those cops suck, huh? How about the goats though, huh? You know, and they were like, oh yeah, the goats. And then they came to my farm because I had, you know, and they're like, oh, we want to come and bring our kids to the farm. I said, bingo, let's do that. And so that's where that idea was born, was like seeing these people, you know, because I know that their kids, they're like, our kids, they all farmed. They're all refugees from farming communities. And they're sitting there in the Twin Cities, trying to figure out how they're going to get their halal goats and what their kids are supposed to do in this, you know, crazy world. And so, you know, that's what we're growing out. It's called the Many Nations Goat Cooperative, you know, and I'm not sure how it's gonna go. I got, you know, 20 goats right now. Seems like it's gonna go. Seems like we're having babies, you know, and then pretty soon we'll start. But the idea is for us to not grow all the goats for the Somalis, but to encourage like other farmers, because it is a scale thing. Like you only need 50 goats, or maybe you could have 100, but don't have 500 goats. That's not the same scale of relationship, right? And then other people could have the goats. You know what I'm saying is like, to me, this is like part of like observing, and it also started a little bit with the Amish, because the Amish had goats and they couldn't get them to market. I was like, I got you, I got car. You know what I'm saying? And so it's interesting, kind of like the organic. Of course, I was reading Anne Marie Brown, Emergent Strategy. If any of you read, you know, it's like this idea of like you have the plan, and then there's this like keep praying, and these other things emerge. And so that's kind of really been, that is actually like how we organize. And you know, so our goal is, and I think we're going to do great this summer. I think that there's a Boy Scout camp just north of my house, 2,400 acres. Boy Scouts are, did you see, going bankrupt and such? I was like, and that camp is in the middle of my reservation. And we've been riding horse up there. I was like, you got a horse camp there, don't you? The guy said, yep, has been used for 20 years. I said, well, move in. You know, so I'm going to take all these kids out of the housing projects and stick them on horses camping up there this summer. That's what I'm going to do. You know, and that's, and you know, I mean, because there's nothing like a horse for a kid. You know, and like not everybody is in this situation, but us making the choice of both the horses as a part of our culture, but in addition, horse-drawn agriculture. You know, so it's not just riding the horses, but it's growing the food with the horses, and you know, logging with the horses or sugaring with the horses. You know what I mean? That's what we're doing. And so I think that you know, all I know is my community kids, and I got a lot of requests to come move in with Auntie Winona, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, how many 15-year-old boys I got. But it's okay. They're like the highest risk population. You know, it's like, and what if they could all become farmers and have a grand time and not go to town and not do meth? You know, I mean, you know, it's an opioid epidemic in my community. So I got, you know, I got a bunch of boys who aren't. And, you know, so I really believe in that. And I look out there, you guys are in the same condition I am. I mean, I'm 62 and my 401k ain't going to be worth much. But if I have a plan of coherent, you know, if I have land and water, I could make maple sugar, and I have some grandchildren that think. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's it. You know, do they have the knowledge to live, right? Then I'll feel a lot more secure about my retirement plan. You know, because and I think that that's really a lot of us, you know, it's like, it's not about the money, it's about the life and what life we make, you know? And I understand the cash economy is important, but my goal is to use as little or need as little as possible. Like if I don't got to buy gas and I could get my energy from solar or wood, I'm in. If I don't got to go to the store, and I could just even have a little garden box of, you know, 10 by 5, produce $800 worth of food out of that, I'm good. I mean, that's what you could do in a city, is you can have those grow boxes, right? If I can, you know, figure out how to do things in a more quality of life way that's more honest, well, better. So I don't know. I'm excited, you know. We did get another bit of snow yesterday, a couple of days ago. I was hoping they'd kind of shovel it out a little bit before I came home. But, you know, that means we got a lot more syruping. And I feel like it's a good, you know, those kids are liking it. They're proud of their sugar. They're really proud, you know. You know, one of our tribes, Keweenaw Bay, I leave you with this thought of what a sustainable economy looks like. Keweenaw Bay Reservation, I think it was in 1852 or something like that. They made 463,000 pounds of maple sugar. Did y'all hear me say that? 463,000 pounds of maple sugar from one community on Lake Superior. Sugar without slaves. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, that's what a sustainable economy looks like. Now, given not all those trees are there, but there's a lot of trees still there. Like those trees that are there in Philly, you know? Honor your maples. You could tap some birch too, but it takes a little bit more. Anyway, thank you all so much. I'm happy to hang out for lunch and be here if you need it. Very good. That's my little mouse.
Oh my God, so grateful. Part of what's going through my mind is, you know, we sometimes will have presenters that break people into groups and do kind of workshopy things. Sometimes we're talking concepts and ideas. I have heard more doing it, more action, vision into action is what this has felt like for me. And I'm so inspired. I'm like, I'm leaving here today thinking about what I will do differently. That's right. If they were,
That's a little
if
further
they-
down the trail.
yeah. And goats are actually pretty cool.
And then they mow your lawn. That's the
Yeah.
other thing is, you know what I'm saying, is that everybody should have goats. I mean, okay, I didn't say that.
I love it. I love it. I can imagine how you go straight from thought to doing.
You can imagine my organization too.
I am imagining that. So thank you so much. For folks that are in this facility for the first time, there you go down the stairs, that's where the food is. And it's not real cool to sit outside today with the weather, but there's that back room and downstairs. And thank you all for coming. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to read what's in the chat box. So we're going to be opening breakout groups. If folks want to stay and chat, let us know if you need support going into a breakout room.